Excited for Haason Reddick.
Yeah.
What is going on, everybody? We are live. I am here with Garrett Greenlee of the Football Analysis channel. We're also live over on his channel. We're doing a little double action. Really excited to have not just someone with us here to react to all this stuff, but all you in the chat joining us live.
Let's go, baby.
Garrett, how you doing?
I'm doing phenomenal. I'm just making sure that I'm live on my channel. This is definitely a test on both sides, and I think we are good to go. We are good to go. We are going to be reacting to everything. Very much looking forward to it. I texted Marcus today and just was like, hey, like if you're planning on going live, like why don't we just go ahead and collaborate live and do it together? Now,
why cannibalize each other when we can boost it up?
Everybody eats. There's 2 moves already, by the way. There's 2 moves already.
Oh, okay. So we got Reddick. What's the Chris Godwin back
Chris
to Tampa?
Godwin. Chris Godwin back to Tampa. Yep. The Bucs are active. The Bucs are active early. So good for the Bucs.
I say, yeah, we react live as they come in, and then I did generate like a list of all the craziness that happened like the last 2 days too, of stuff that if we have any downtime that we can kind of go back and give our thoughts on some of the stuff that's happened as well. But let's start with Haason Reddick, man. Well, what'd you say the numbers were? You were able to get a tweet or something because Twitter's down, by the way, guys.
Perfect.
I created a blue sky account just so I could get a couple follows. So I'm seeing it just now, actually, just a 1-year deal for $14 million for Haason Reddick. That's kind of a good deal for Tampa. What do you think?
They need pass rush help. Obviously, whenever I do a mock draft, I have mocked I've mocked a lot of players to Tampa, whether it was Mike Green falling all the way to 19 or whoever. This is an interesting deal, obviously, because of what happened with Reddick last year with the holdout and everything. But I'm a fan of a deal anytime there's a signing like this because it's pretty low risk. I mean, 12 guaranteed is obviously not bad in today's salary cap era. So I'm a fan of any signing like this where it's 1 year, and if he has another year like he just had, it's not really going to matter in the long run. But if he has a great year like he had a couple of years ago back in 2022, then it's a home run signing for the Bucs. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, the post-hype sleeper signing is always a good way to find value, especially when someone's like gone to just kind of a disaster situation. I feel like with Reddick, he obviously got traded to the Jets, but then he never really like got a chance to really like get his season started. He was holding out like into the season, like 2 months into the season. And then it was just like, okay, well, I guess we're going to like restructure your deal, give you a little more bonus. And then they try to get him going when the season was already kind of a shit show for them. So, or a crap show. Sorry, I forgot we're on your channel too. But yeah, I like it. I feel like he's 1 year removed from.
Oh, let's go, baby. Sorry. Vikings, Jonathan Allen. Let's go, man. I'm so amped. I'm sorry.
Good for you.
Hold on. I came prepared.
So fake happy for you, Garrett.
I came prepared, baby. We got the horns. I can't put the horns on exactly, but let's go. We are, you know what? That's fine.
It's fallen right off of your NASCAR crew chief helmet setup you've got going there.
I wish I could tweet so bad. But
oh man.
Shout
That's
out Quasi,
huge.
Man. Shout out Quasi.
Well, we'll go right there. I just want to wrap up my thoughts on Reddick though. Yeah, I feel like he's going to play well. Excellent fit with Bowles in that system. The stand-up edge linebacker role is where he needs to be, and just a lot of blitzing, loop him inside, all that good stuff that Bowles likes to do. Great fit, great value, and it doesn't mean they can't go edge in the first round either. By the way, with it just being a 1-year deal, I really like that for them, just to make sure they have somebody. But the floor is yours. You can talk about your Minnesota Vikings getting Jonathan Allen. That's a big one.
All right. So first off, I am. Wait. Somebody said it's not official. I just got the update that it was official. Vikings. Oh no! It says they're hosting. It's a good amount of interest. Okay, I'm gonna trust Quasi. That's on me. But
look, you got overexcited. You jumped the gun.
Look. I am gonna say this. I am genuinely annoyed, especially in the offensive line. We'll still address the trenches. There's still the draft. Hopefully Gray's able, somebody like that. But I get annoyed whenever my team whenever teams just pound the rock down your throat, and there's just nothing you can do about it. So I know Jonathan Allen had a down year last year. I know he's not exactly like Dexter Lawrence in terms of just a big nose tackle in the middle of the line, if you will. But I am ecstatic that there's interest from the Vikings because the potential is there. I mean, Jonathan Allen is a former first-round pick. I was honestly really surprised back in 2017 whenever he fell as far as he did. I thought he was like a top 10 player in that class. But he did have a little bit of a down year, but he's a former Pro Bowler. And we've seen a lot of or not former players, but we've seen a lot of veterans go to Minnesota over the past couple of years under Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi and really produce. So I definitely jumped the gun on that, but look, I don't regret jumping the gun.
Okay.
I don't regret jumping the gun. I don't regret jumping the gun.
Maybe you'll get to jump the gun twice now. You get to be double excited if they actually lock it in. How about we talk a little bit about Chris Godwin going back to the Bucs? I mean, for the third time, people thought he was gonna hit the market, or I guess second time. People thought maybe they could steal him in free agency, but he's back. And we know what he can do there. It's not like we need to analyze the fit or how he can perform. It's more of, coming off the injury, how can he respond? It's almost pointless for us to sit here and speculate over that. That's kind of the risk that comes with that, bringing him back 3 years. So presumably, probably something they could get out of after maybe 2 seasons if it didn't work. But kind of hard not to like that for the Bucs. Just kind of keep the gang together. I would be surprised if you have strong opinions about it other than that.
Pretty much same thing. I mean, you know what you're going to get with Chris Godwin. And I'll say this, obviously we're reacting to this live. We don't know what was offered from other teams, but if I am a Patriots fan, this is the only strong opinion that I would have. If we got outbid with as much money as we have, I'd be upset. But there's also a part where you had to look at it and say, okay, Chris Godwin's getting $45 million guaranteed from Tampa. How much? What is the difference between 45 guaranteed to stay in sunny Florida in December versus getting 51 guaranteed to go to Boston in the middle of December and January? You know what I mean? So there was always going to be that battle. I don't know if the Patriots were even in on Chris Godwin, but I'm happy for everybody within the Bucs, Bucs fans, obviously the Bucs organization. Jason Light has done a tremendous job in terms of building that roster. And then Jalen McMillan had a good end of the year last year. He finished the year with 7 touchdowns very quietly. And how you can run a lot of 11 personnel with Evans, Godwin, and McMillan. Hopefully Chris Godwin comes back and is the player that he was when healthy, because he's one of my favorite players in the league. I'm a Penn State fan, so I loved Chris Godwin when he played there. And I hope that he gets back, but I'm definitely with you on that.
I feel like with McMillan, I would have been, if I were a Bucs fan, I would have been a little nervous. Like if he was my wide receiver 2 heading into next year, like you liked a lot of the stuff he showed, but it definitely would have been a pretty big leap of faith if he had to be your 2. So I do love getting Godwin back. It's 45. I just saw though, it is 3 years, $66 million, 45 guaranteed. So that's a pretty damn strong sign of conviction that the Bucs feel good about that injury not being an issue coming back.
So
did you let out an O there? Did you see something else?
Yes, we have NFC North news. This is actually confirmed from Rappaport. Drew Dalman, Falcons center, is headed to the Bears. That is per Rappaport. I don't know any terms. I don't know terms, but that is per Rappaport.
I'm surprised by that, frankly. I'm surprised that he was someone on their list as a scheme fit, because you look at the centers they've had in Detroit. They're these big guys that can block man schemes, block gap schemes, and drive guys off the ball, kind of contribute to the inside running scheme that, talking about they as in Detroit being Ben Johnson coming over. They ran everything in the book, but they absolutely had to have that inside run game. And Drew Dalman, he's small. He's a wide zone, undersized center. He's not a good pass protector either. Someone that, you take these smaller centers, you put them in these wide zone systems where a lot of the passing game is play action, where you're trying to replicate the run game. You get defensive linemen going east and west. He's not a great north and south pass blocker if he's got bigger guys, teeing off on him. I actually don't love this deal for Chicago. I really don't. I don't know that he's going to be a great upgrade in terms of pass protection. Obviously, they're looking to keep Caleb upright. Presumably, he's going to get a pretty massive deal there. They've already invested a lot of money in bringing Jonah Jackson over, and of course Joe Thuney. So I'm never the person to push back on adding offensive linemen, but this is a situation where I'm actually going to throw a little bit of pause on it, that it might just be a little bit almost too much like, okay, Ben Johnson's here. We got to get all of the top offensive linemen as soon as they become available to us. I already had some questions about Jonah Jackson and pass protection as well. So if you're throwing a ton of money at those two guys, look, I get it. I get the approach. I do wonder if some of the value is a little over aggressive there.
Okay, so there are terms. I don't know if this is going to change how you feel about this. I personally, well, sorry, I'll get to the terms first. It's 3 for 42, 28 guaranteed. I am in a similar position with the Bucs. Anytime you can have a guy 2-year deal to hopefully upgrade the position, which the Bears desperately need. Caleb was sacked the most last year. I'm all for it, especially because now that gives you a really good out to either have a chance at Ashton Genty at number 10 if he's there, or to draft the best edge available, whoever that player is in their minds at pick 10. So obviously in the past week, they've added Jonah Jackson, Joe Thuney, and now Drew Dalman. So good for the Bears, man. I mean, this is the type of upgrades that I want my team to have. I do have a young quarterback, but that's, I mean, I wish that my team was out doing that right now. Like I love what the Bears are doing in terms of, and that's more of the Thuney and the Jonah Jackson aspect than just Drew Dalman. But I'm all for what the Bears are going after right now. So I like it. And the biggest thing for me is they're not going to be able to not pay anybody because of the Drew Dalman contract. So I like it because of that and what it represents. It's an upgrade. It is that's the biggest thing. It's an upgrade at the position, and it's not going to kill you in the long run. So I'm all for it. If I had to give it a grade, I'd probably give it like an A-, just because it is a lot of money. But again, they're not going to say, "Hey, Caleb, guess what, buddy? We can't afford you because of this contract." And not that would even play into it, but you get what I'm saying. So I like it. I like it for the Bears.
Okay. Also, I like the idea of giving out grades as you drop that in there.
We go.
I was checking Drew Dalman, by the way, 27th in pass blocking efficiency last year. And I do expect that run blocking grade to come down, being outside of a wide zone system. I'm going to go C-, man. I'm just going to call my shot. I don't think he's going to be that good there. I don't think Ben Johnson's going to be in love with kind of what they're getting there. So I would love to be wrong, but I'm going to call my shot that is just a little bit of a reach from them. We'll see.
This is I'm definitely frustrated with where the notifications are because they're so spotty. The fact that Twitter is still down is so frustrating because I can't, we're all doing the same thing. But there was another move. I'm not really good. This is not grade worthy in my opinion. Braxton Berrios is a Texan, 1 year, $2 million. Cool. I don't have much. I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? It's just technically it happened. Yeah. It's kind of cool, nice.
I did just see Jaylon Moore
to the Chiefs. We did not discuss that.
The Chiefs for 2 years, $30 million. He's going to be their left tackle. That's pretty crazy. Coming over from the Niners, right? Jaylon Moore. Okay. I mean, he had a good year last year. So that's one of those deals where, I mean, that's not nothing. That's one of the last moves that Kansas City is going to be able to make here. They obviously were going to be doing their due diligence on this free agency class at tackle, which is, it's a rough one. It's a really rough tackle class. So this is a situation where it's all right. I mean, he played pretty well for the Niners last year. He was an athlete coming out of Western Michigan, I think, a 3rd round pick. I mean, I got to kind of go back into my own deep archive, recall Jaylon Moore a bunch. But you're trusting the Chiefs NFL scouting department that, the trajectory is there, the traits are there, the tape was there last year, and he's going to be worth that money. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's a slam dunk and he's definitely going to be worth that. But I guess the Chiefs have earned a little bit of benefit of the doubt there.
Yeah. And there it was 2 for 30 with 21. So they're in an interesting situation with just everybody they have, whether it's Mahomes' contract is so flexible, but whether it's, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, they're going to have a lot of guys to pay. Trey Smith, Creed, Oh, shoot. Marcus is talking. I can't hear him.
What? I'm not talking.
Oh, disregard. Sorry, disregard. I was looking.
You were looking at your YouTube
YouTube
stream and
the
seeing
stream. Yeah.
the old. Yeah.
Sorry.
I did the same thing earlier.
I do like the move in the sense of it's just an upgrade, and that is, I mean, it's what they need right now, and it doesn't. This is another reason why I like this, and I'm not going to praise every single signing and just it's kumbaya for every single signing, right? But what I'll say is it does not have them go into the draft and basically wave a like a flare like you see in a movie, like, hey, go to the Batman symbol or whatever, where it's like, hey, we need a tackle. So I still think they should go after the offense, an offensive tackle, especially this class in the first round, but it doesn't at least pigeonhole them to where the point it's like, all right, they're going to trade up, but who are they going to trade up with? So that's why I like the signing specifically, because it buys them a little bit of time. It can at least give them a year where they're not like, hey, we have to draft Ariante, we have to trade up to 18 to go get Ariante Ursery or 19 or wherever. I'm just tossing out numbers. You get the point. But I do like that for the Chiefs specifically, because it buys them a little bit of time. And I also like just the fact that it should be an upgrade based on what we saw, where they wouldn't have a left guard kicking out to left tackle against the best defensive line in football in the Super Bowl. So I do like that because of that. Yeah.
You use free agency to kind of fill the need, like truly fill the needs. If you got to fill, or if you can fill it in the draft, that's great. But you don't want to go into April's draft like praying that the board falls the right way. So that's well said. I think they were probably pretty happy that the Ravens got Stanley back. I say this because I know they were maybe going to be looking at Stanley. Who knows if they could afford him or not? But every time I do a mock draft, the Ravens go Josh Connerly at 27 or whatever. And if the Ravens aren't taking him, then maybe the Chiefs are able to get Josh Connerly, who feels like that tackle that like you want to get it late first instead of having to dip into maybe more like second round graded guys. I did get a super chat from Felix. Bowles has built a better culture than Tomlin and has more playoff wins in recent years. Godwin left 20 mil on the board to stay. I don't think it's a bad take. I think everybody enjoys playing for Todd Bowles down there. Mike Tomlin catching a random stray, though, in this situation. Thank you, Felix. I was going to say, if we do get some downtime, we can start to talk about some of the moves that happened yesterday, if you want, unless you got.
I went live yesterday, so we were in the trenches as it was going on. It was awesome, but I actually just got a super chat as well. It's actually from Daniel. This applies to everybody in Marcus's chat as well. He said, "Remember to like and subscribe." So definitely everybody do that. So appreciate the super chat, Daniel.
Appreciate it.
But in the downtime, this is a chat here. This is a good one. In the downtime, can you guys rank cheeses? That was a chat. That was a confirmed chat. Oh, I can't hear you. There we go.
All right. Yeah. Did you cover DK Metcalf last night?
Mm-hmm. I was debating on going live with everything going on with the Josh Allen extension, with the Devontae to the Rams, and then when DK got traded, I was already debating it. So I was like, you know what? Like, let me just pop a quick thumbnail and let's go. And it was a great time. It was a great time.
Well, I kind of slept on it, and I want to talk to you about it and get your thoughts.
Let's do it.
Holy crap. Like, that's a lot for Pittsburgh to give up. Not just the second round pick. I mean, that value adds up, but you understand why the Seattle Seahawks weren't able to get a first round pick for him. Like 33 mil a year, 155 years. Like, that is a crazy amount for a guy that kind of struggled at times last year with contested catches and a lot of just like frustrating football awareness issues, like not always working back to the quarterback or not keeping his feet down on the sideline, like stopping, not being in the right place at the right time on certain, routes against zone where Gino's expecting him to be here and then he stops over there. I don't love it for Pittsburgh, man. I just feel like that's kind of, but at the same time, I love DK Metcalf. So I'm really split.
Yeah.
On the plus side, they're not like paying a quarterback $1 bazillion. So you can kind of stomach it a little bit better. And hopefully he can help elevate all these different bridge and lowly drafted quarterbacks that they do find themselves bringing in. So I get why they were aggressive. If you're not going to be able to land that superstar quarterback, go get one of the best wide receiver duos in the league. It's exciting, but it's like, man, that's a lot for a guy that is probably a little worse than he gets credit for, frankly. What did you think about it?
So I'm a huge DK Metcalf guy. I mean, he's one of my favorite players. Now I acknowledge he's not like a top 4 or 5 NFL receiver. But I have been frustrated with the Steelers for plural years. And it's just like, it's run, deep ball to George Pickens, punt. And that's how it was down the stretch of the 24 season. And I was beyond frustrated with a lot of preventable things just in terms of how they go about building their team. So I like the fact that they're actually making moves, but an average of $30 million or 33, because I think the extension was like 33, but it's a lot of money for them. But I kind of look at it as they're not in a great situation to begin with. And if you can give a second round pick in this class, and technically there was a swap on the back end, but if you can give a second round pick in this class, I think DK is worth it in that sense. Now I know you obviously have to pay him, which is a downside, and I'll be eager to see how they navigate the George Pickens contract, because that'll definitely be interesting. We have a couple more signings, but I was definitely eager to, or not eager rather. I liked the move for the Steelers just because it's like, hey, instead of treading water, we're actually trying something rather than, all right, George Pickens, Calvin Austin. I mean, Roman Wilson never got healthy last year, but God, Pat Freiermuth, go ahead, guys, go make it happen. Najee Harris, go make it happen. So I like the fact that they're actually going after. Now I'll be eager to see if we get a notification about a quarterback that they go after, which I would imagine would be either Rodgers or Darnold in the next, hopefully, half hour. We'll see, though.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to think about what the DK trade could potentially set up for them. There's a little bit of redundancy and skill set with Pickens and Metcalf. Yes. And in the back of my mind, I kind of wonder if they might be open to moving on from Pickens. Maybe not after this. Like, they might play him together this year, but they might say, hey, we don't really plan on paying Pickens $30 million for all the kind of locker room drama and all that stuff, because that does exist. And they said, well, we can get a similar player here and kind of lock that in. And then in terms of the quarterbacks, like, I will say they're two like most realistic options, I think. I mean, well, in Fields too, but Russ and Aaron Rodgers, those two guys love to throw balls down the boundary, back shoulders, go balls. Like, that's where they're comfortable attacking the field. Theoretically, like, that's like the perfect wide receiver duo if you could put those two guys with either Rodgers or Russ. So yeah, it's definitely not all bad. It was a lot of money, but I just got a couple quick super chats here.
Absolutely, likewise. Yep.
So Matt, I just want to let you know we just broke down the Bears offensive line about 10 minutes ago. So not going to reiterate that for you, but thank you for the super chat. You just got to go back about 10 minutes there. And then Man Juice, great nickname, but we'll have deep dives. When it's deep dive season, can we get position coaches? The Vikes tight end coach is pass game coordinator now. It'd be cool to have your take on that kind of stuff. I will to implement position coaches and stuff, but my breadth of knowledge probably wouldn't be consistent across all 32 teams. So I'm not sure I'd be able to rank position coaches and all that stuff for that series. But thank you guys for the super chats.
I want to get a quick one as well. This is from Merle. He asks about a Seahawks receiver in the first without DK. And then he asks specifically about Emeka Egbuka or Luther Burden. And I hate to give this answer. I will definitively say yes, that's a definite possibility, but it's also going to depend on the offensive line and how the board plays out. I think it's pretty safe to say at this point that Armand Membu, who I would love for Seattle, is not going to be there.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Yeah, right. There was a point where it was, but like now it's not. But so I think at this point, it's definitely, I would prefer Egbuka or Luther Burden to Jackson Dart at pick 18. So I think that those guys are definitely in play, and I do appreciate the super chat, Merle. And then we have some news with Javon Kinlaw. 3 years, this is confirmed, 3 years, 35 to the Washington, or 3 years, 45 to the 45. Washington. Yes, 30 guaranteed to the Washington Commanders. Reunites him with Adam Peters. Dude, I have Twitter back up. We are back up. We're back up.
Twitter's back?
Twitter's back.
Oh, we are so back. Wait.
We are so back.
Yeah, Twitter's back up. Those 4 employees working for Twitter got it going. Okay, Kinlaw, 45, 3 years, decent amount guaranteed. Here's the deal. Washington has basically endless money to throw around right now, and the interior D-line market has really dried up. I don't fully understand them just throwing away Jonathan Allen, by the way, who's going to get similar money. I don't really understand that. There's clearly something's going on behind the scenes there. I couldn't tell you what it is. I don't think he's like a bad actor or anything like that, so I have no idea why. But clearly they were eager to get rid of him. I mean, he's a disruptor. He's a penetrator. He can get you some pressures. He's not going to help your run defense. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's a value, but they need pass rushers, and he's going to contribute, and Dan Quinn will find a way to use him. So it's not the end of the world. I'll give it like a B- C+ type of deal. It's fine.
So I'm actually going to push back a little bit. I'm not a fan of this. I mean, $15 million a year for Kinlaw. Whenever you had Jonathan Allen, to me, is not a good process. I know Jonathan Allen had a down year, and I understand all that. And like you said, there's stuff that we simply don't know right now. But I'm not a big Javon Kinlaw guy. I was 5 years ago in the draft process, but it's been disappointment after. I mean, it's just been a disappointing career. And I mean, not everybody is going to be Dexter Lawrence in the first round or Aaron Donald in the first round as a defensive tackle. It's going to happen. But I mean, Javon to me is. I mean, if you want to positively spin this, he's going to have Jourdan Payne next to him, so at least there's something there. But even last year with Quinnen Williams next to him in New York, it's not like he was this can't miss player where he's wreaking havoc every game. I just feel like he is the definition of a home run or bust as a defensive tackle, and I feel like that's not good. And I do want to say quickly to add on to the Washington Commanders, I saw you tweet about this the other day, so I want to kind of go off of this.
Sure.
You tweeted something to the effect of the Commanders peaking at the right time. And I couldn't agree more with that. Now, I don't want to make like a 15-20 minute video about how the Commanders are destined to have a down year. Right. Because that's all that's just picking fruit from the tree or whatever it is, where it's just like, oh, gee, a team that went to the NFC Championship game, I wonder why they're going to regress. Right. But they had so many things happen right the exact way they needed to. I mean, you have to make the play, so credit where it's due, but I just don't see that happening 2 years in a row. And I don't like this process here of giving Javon Kinlaw $30 million guaranteed. Now, I will say, I'm not going to be a hypocrite and not point out that it's probably not going to affect anybody in terms of a contract extension, the way that I pointed out with Drew Dalman with the Bears, the way that I pointed out with other signings, but I'm not the biggest fan of this deal for Javon Kinlaw personally. I mean, this is a guy that's just I'm not the biggest fan of.
10% pressure rate, more or less, the last couple of years. 30th in pass rush win rate. Back-to-back years, PFF pass rush grade around 70. He can disrupt. I think Dan Quinn needed that guy for his stunts, his blitzes. I guess I'm a little higher on it than you, but I think you're totally fair to be pretty harsh on this one.
I welcome being wrong, of course. Welcome being wrong 100%. But
all right. So are we all caught up on,
I think we are
on transactions?
No, Chiefs Elijah Mitchell, running back Elijah. And then the Bengals also brought back defensive tackle BJ Hill, which I'm not really gonna. I mean, BJ Hill they brought him back. That's technically not. I mean, it's whatever.
I will say, 3 years, $33 million. That's a pretty good price for BJ Hill. Like for a team that is trying to navigate a tough cap situation, but also needs to fill out starters on their defense. I think they're probably internally pretty damn happy with that. Seeing Javon Kinlaw get 15 mil.
Right.
I think BJ Hill is a better, overall player. He's not a great pass rusher, but they need bodies. I mean, that interior defensive line is so bad. So I think it's good deal to bring him back.
I agree. I would agree with that. I think BJ Hill is just kind of a steady Eddie. You know what you're getting, and that I would prefer to pay $11 million for BJ Hill than I would $15 million for Javon Kinlaw. Now, if I had to pay Javon Kinlaw for 1 year, I would do it because there's a chance that you could get a 8 or 9 sack year and a lightning in a bottle, and you could have a 45-50 pressure year from Kinlaw, maybe 7 or 8 sacks. But I would prefer BJ Hill in this specific situation, especially in the AFC North, where, I mean, we can call it what it is. They're going to run the ball a lot in that division, whether it's the Ravens, whether it's the Steelers. We know they love to try and establish the run, and then even the Browns for that matter too. They're going to have a different quarterback under center for 2025, so they're probably going to try and establish the run more often than not. So I think it's a good retention for the Bengals, and I think Twitter is unfortunately back down. By the way, what a day, dude! Like of all days for Twitter to be down.
The Twitter just couldn't handle NFL free agency.
Yeah,
it can get through. MLB free agency and NBA, but it cannot handle NFL. It wasn't familiar with its game.
Right.
Can we roast the Patriots for the Harold Landry move? Can we
go for it?
Can we put him on blast?
Wait. Let me say this real quick, because I talked about it last night. I covered it all in the stream last night. I'll just briefly say that I wasn't like, oh, hooray, go for it, but it was also kind of like they have money to burn, and it went. I base a lot of it off.
They burned it.
Yeah, I base a lot of it off of like, okay, I'm trying to positively spin that, okay, Christian Gonzalez will not be able to get paid because of this signing. Drake May is a couple years away. They don't have too many guys to pay where it's like, oh man, this is going to really hinder them, but definitely not a good use of resources, if you will.
I mean, I talked to multiple people when, out of the combine at the Senior Bowl, a lot of Titans fans, and the number one thing I kept hearing was like just how bad Harold Landry was. And the metrics on him are so bad. Dead last in pass rush win rate, 7% pressure rate. I mean, that's a big theme on my channel. I talk about if you can just get a 10% pressure rate from an edge rusher, that's like the entry, like password to like be worthy of being on the field for a third down, is if you can just get after the quarterback, pressure him 10% of the time. If you're below that, it's concerning. If you're 30% below that, it's just unplayable. Like since the ACL injury, he has just not had the burst that he once had. He already is an undersized guy that leaned on bend and explosiveness. He doesn't have it anymore. He still plays hard. He can still stop the run. There is really no difference, though, between, say, Preston Smith or even on the Patriots. I don't know if he's under contract or not, but the former Alabama linebacker that's played on-ball linebacker for them for multiple years now, names is Anthony Jennings. Like, Anthony Jennings now gets less reps on early downs because you want to bring in Harold Landry for $15 million. Anthony Jennings just straight up is just a better player than Harold Landry. He's a better run defender, does all that stuff better, and actually has a little bit of power as a rusher. I hate this move. I think this is an early candidate for worst move of the offseason. Yeah, they had money to burn, but why? Why burn it? You can use that as rollover money into next year. You can wait and see who else becomes available. I think it's just, this is what we talked about with Howie Roseman when we had our podcast, like, a couple weeks ago. Like, Howie Roseman just lets the other teams do stupid crap and just picks up on value that other teams eventually aren't able to capitalize on. This is just like, Howie Roseman was probably like laughing his ass off when he saw that. I guarantee it.
So, does this change anything about the Patriots? Not that they're the exact same position, of course, because they're not, but they just signed linebacker Robert Spillane.
Don't
know numbers, so I can't quote you on that. But
I was trying to refresh Twitter. It is so frustrating that it's down. But does it change anything about the Patriots? It's a good signing. I mean, Robert Spillane the last couple of years has kind of been a beast. Like, I don't know why the Raiders wouldn't have locked him up after they bring Patrick Graham back. He's been so good in that defense. Now you've just created a gaping problem at linebacker for the Raiders. So that, for me, that's a bigger loss for the Raiders among anything. But I think you think back to Vrabel, always wants like the leader of his defense. I'm sure Vrabel's stoked about this, man. Like, just a heat-seeking missile.
Yeah.
He loves guys that I'm trying to think of. He wore number 55, Brown, Jayon Brown. But he had some linebackers and David Long Jr. These two guys just not necessarily the biggest linebackers or the most gap sound, most disciplined linebackers, but guys that just like fly to the ball, reckless pursuit. That's what I think of with Robert Spillane. So I do like the signing, and presumably not going to be terribly expensive. Anything in the 10 to 15 range for him, I think I'd be comfortable with on an average. So I like it.
To be honest, I'd be surprised if it's well, not 15. I'd be surprised if it's more than like 11 or 12 a year. I really like it.
Yeah.
I like Spillane a lot back in the pandemic year when he was in Pittsburgh. That was his breakout year. He was a guy like the heat seeking missile is the perfect way to describe Robert Spillane. So I like that a lot. I know they have money to spend. I'd be surprised if they gave him more. And I know even with the cap exploding, I'd be surprised if they gave him more than 12 a year. So I do like that. Now we do have one more move here. We have Jourdan Lewis to the Jags. He becomes the highest paid nickel corner. That is the only, there's no numbers. There's no numbers yet, but it was confirmed from Peter Schrager that Jourdan Lewis is the highest paid nickel corner to the Jags.
Wow. Well, this is a victory for my studs and duds series. A couple days ago, I was saying he's going to get a bunch of money this year.
There you go.
Didn't think he was going to become the highest paid nickel corner, but he had a hell of a year. 29 years old, I believe. He's been in Dallas for so long. Just good coverage production. Kind of we can reuse the term heat-seeking missile with him. Like he's one of those see ball, get ball types. And for Jacksonville, so highest paid nickel. That's actually not that much. If you think about it, that's probably, that's probably like 11 or 12 because the nickels just haven't gotten paid that much. So I'm down with that for Jacksonville. They are desperate for corners, and that gets Darnell Savage out of your starting lineup, which is always a plus.
So I also like it, and I've been hoping that this is not going to happen now, at least, but I was always hoping that there was a way where we'd have Travis Hunter and Tyson Campbell. Unfortunately, probably not going to happen. Never say never.
I still think it could happen.
We've seen weirder things in the draft, but that's my dream. But if you can at least like start to attack the secondary and build your defense one at a time, and even if you don't get Travis Hunter, Mason Graham would be a good option at pick 5. But when you have guys to be able to get after the quarterback in Hines Allen and of course Trevon Walker, the Jags defense to me, at least up front, is, from a pass rushing perspective, it's pretty solid. So you got another good corner, and you're in a division that's not.
It's not unwinnable,
right? It's not bad. It's not great. The Titans are in a situation. The Colts are in a situation. So the Texans probably not going to have Tank Dell for a lot of 2025. Diggs is a question mark at this point, whether he's back or not. He's also coming off a torn ACL at 31, going on 32. So new coach with Trevor. It's a very winnable division for the Jags.
I will say
it's a very winnable division.
I will say, I was just pulling up their depth chart. Kind of forgot about Jarrian Jones, who did have a good rookie season in the nickel. So interesting that they basically said nah on that. Maybe they think he can play outside, but that is at least an interesting note on this. Jarrian Jones had a ton of like really impressive splash plays, but a lot of really bad lows as well. I think he led all defensive backs in missed tackles. I want to like my recall on this. I think he missed 27% of his tackle attempts. And as a nickel player, that's like really, really rough because you can be the best coverage nickel corner in the league. You're still going to allow like 2/3 of your targets because it's just they're quick hitting, they're quick hitting throws. You're going to get bumped. You're going to get, knocked off your coverage. You're going to allow receptions as good as you might be. So if you aren't, keeping guys underneath and finishing those tackles, it is an issue. So they might've just watched the film and been like, we'll keep him as a backup and let him compete for the outside job. But we got to get a guy in Jourdan Lewis Jourdan Lewis. Am I second? Yeah. Lewis, right?
Yes,
I've
yes.
totally had a brain fart there. But I want to say Jourdan Lewis, like one thing I was praising him for was the tackling consistency. And I'm trying to pull that up right now. So I'm just curious if that all checks out. So Jourdan Lewis last year, better, about, half of what we said with Jones, 13% missed tackle. rate. So definitely better, but not like elite or anything. Last year was really high for him, or good high for him.
I did like Jerry a lot coming out of Florida State last year, and then of course Renardo went to San Francisco in the second round. But that was fun corners from Florida State last year. There's another one this year. I'm kind of completely going off topic with Azareye'h Thomas. I love his game, but I'm happy with where the Jags are headed. I really am, because they are bringing in better football players, and that's the biggest thing. And I mean, obviously last year was frustrating, and I did a little breakdown at one point regarding just Anton Harrison had a tough start to the year. I thought he was on pace to being a draft bust. Credit to Anton, he played a lot better as the season progressed. But the first couple of games with the Jags in particular was brutal. And that was kind of before BTJ really got going. I know he had the big 85-yard touchdown early in the year. The big splash play was the one against the Colts where the corner was like fully outstretched, and it was it's a pretty funny screenshot. But the Jags had a tough start to the year. Tough overall last year. They had the 5th overall pick.
Yeah.
But, I like where they're headed, and I will stand that I don't think they are the 5th worst roster in the league. I will stand by that. I know they're picking 5th in the draft, but I will stand that I don't think they're the 5th worst roster in the league. Also, Rams brought back Jimmy G. Not that Jimmy requires a lot, but they brought him back.
I got a question for you. Where do you think Rodgers goes?
Okay.
Vikings?
No. It'll be an all-time reaction. If he gets on here, it'll be if he signs with us while we're live, it'll be an all-time reaction. However, realistically, Pittsburgh or Tennessee is where I would say. I don't think it would make sense for him to go to Seattle. I think Darnold going to Seattle makes more sense. Because
really,
yeah, I do, because at least with Darnold, and I saw you kill the Geno trade, and I get it. I fully understand why, but I wasn't too opposed to the Geno trade, because by the time that they would rebuild everything with Seattle, I didn't think that they would be a Super Bowl caliber team. I mean, he's already 34 going on 35. I feel like that's a tough to sell on, or tough pill to sell it, or tough, it's tough to sell that to yourself that, hey, by the time Geno's 37, he's going to be doing what Matt Stafford's doing now, and that he'll be good, and that we're still going to be a good team by then. And that was always tough for me to sell. So I get that. I get the decision. But I think with Darnold, given that he's only 28, that if he works out, hey, we have a guy for the next 2 or 3 years, and he's not going to cost Josh Allen money. He's not going to cost Dak money. At least you wouldn't think, unless he has like a 40 touchdown season this year. So Darnold will obviously get a pay raise from 10 million last year, but I think it makes a lot of sense for Seattle to gamble with Darnold for 1 year. And if he works out, then you kind of have, not exact, but kind of a younger Geno Smith as to what you've been doing the past couple of years. Because Geno was always, he's always 32, 33, even when he had the right back year a couple of years ago. He was always a little older, and then here we are, he's going on 35.
I'm just really worried. Like, they got to fix the freaking interior of the offensive line. Because it's like, did you watch what happened with Sam Darnold? Like, I think Darnold's pretty good when he gets tackle pressure. Like, I think his spatial awareness works fine with that. Like, he'll step up, he can deal with that. The interior pressure, I think he just self explodes, self combusts. And Geno, for whatever, you could break down all the strengths and weaknesses and say, yeah, him and Sam Darnold are pretty close. I think that's fair. But in terms of in Seattle, it's completely different. I mean, Geno's actually got like really good feel for the pocket overall. And I would be worried about that being kind of a nightmare situation. I've got a couple super chats that I would like to catch up on real quick. Echo, my man, what is up? Good to see you. He says that Colts fans in Indy are ready to get the pitchforks out if Ballard lets Will Fries walk. Dude, I would be so sick of Chris Ballard if I were a Colts fan. I think he's the one GM that I would despise more than Brian Gutekunst in the league right now. So I totally hear you on that. I don't understand. It was a broken leg in October, I think, for Will Fries. It was breaking out as a Pro Bowl caliber guard. Yeah, bring him back. You don't need to create any extra problems for Anthony Richardson. It's not like they don't have cap space, because they never go and do anything. All their, what's the point of never spending money if you don't retain your good players, as they did last year? So hopefully they can work things out. But yeah, get your pitchforks ready if they let him go. Alex as well, thank you for the super chat. Basically just agreeing. He says, I was equally confused why we paid Landry with his injuries. I hope his contract is basically 1-year deal with how it's structured. I think it was more of a 2-year. I mean, they could probably get out of it after 1 year, but they're still going to eat some dead money on it. And then Mark says Rodgers is close to Pittsburgh on a deal, which was kind of floating out there this morning. Did you have any super chats you would like to catch up on?
No, unfortunately none. But hey, look, we're getting there. That's actually embarrassing. But anyway, we're no,
shout out to the TFG fans. You guys are better.
I was making sure. I thought my screen was like frozen. I was like, wait a minute. So, no, we are good in that aspect. I was just making sure that I wasn't like.
No, you're still broke, bro.
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding.
Right.
Totally kidding.
I need to be able to get the Mobile next year. So.
Exactly.
I'm just waiting for
we got to get Cookout in Mobile,
dude. I had it the other day. By the way, if anybody is listening, Cookout is just a nice chef's kiss. Dude. I need a
retry because unfortunately I think my burger got a little burnt.
Shout out. So, I just actually got a super chat. Shout out Ray Lopez. He said, "Got you, dog." A super chat. Shout him out.
Shout out Ray.
So
get into Mobile.
That was his first super. That was his first super ever on a stream. So
awesome. Yeah. All of you guys, by the way, and I speak for Garrett, I think. Thank you for joining us. It just anytime I do one of these live streams and get to hang out with you guys on days like this where we're all just geeking out about stuff, it always just blows my mind that we get to do this. So
100%. Feel the same way. And actually, my ex-wife sent another super chat caption. Here you go, baby. So appreciate that. But I'm reading both chats. I'm keeping up with both chats, so we're doing good. I'm reading your chat as well, so I'm just making sure.
Yeah, less colors as well. The last super chat to catch up on. Sending love from Duluth. Skull, baby. Message for both of us. Who should the Vikes bring in? I'll let you answer that, Garrett.
All right. First off, now the super chats are rolling in from my cheap. So they're rolling in now. But so first off, shout out Duluth, Minnesota. Shout out. That's where my guy CJ Ham is from. Two-time Pro Bowl fullback CJ Ham. He's awesome. So who should we bring in? First off, Jonathan Allen would be nice. That'd be very nice. I sit back and watch the playoffs every year, like all of us, and I am very envious of teams like the Eagles and the Chiefs that. Not because of the Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, and I'm not going to talk about Jalen Hurts with you, Marcus. I know that's a slippery slope, but I just watch and I'm just like, it would be nice to watch a team and not have to worry about watching Ed Ingram or Blake Brandel or Garrett Bradbury across the interior offensive line get absolutely bullied by Dexter Lawrence when we play the Giants or Jalen Carter when we play the Eagles. And not that we have Kirk anymore, but when we played those teams, like 2022, 2023, there were games I just went into the game at 1:00 on Sunday and I'm like, oh boy, Kirk, please survive this one, buddy, because Dexter's going to be in your face all game. And Kirk only weighs like 200 pounds. Dexter's like 340. That's a lot of weight Kirk's giving up. So to give you an actual answer here, Jonathan Allen would be a step. I had Trey Smith as a potential candidate for a long time. But right now, realistic in terms of the draft, Gray's-Able would make a lot of sense. I think there's a favorable comp, like draft profile style, if you will, to Graham Barton from last year from Duke. Mm-hmm. Graham Barton had a solid year for the Bucs, all things considered. Draft offensive line and do not overthink it. I'm very sick of Garrett Bradbury. I mean, I know he's, to me, kind of like similar, but the thing is, he's not as good because Kirk Cousins at his peak, good quarterback, not Mahomes out, obviously not that level, but good quarterback. He's like a 4 or 5 time Pro Bowler. Garrett Bradbury's a lesser Kirk at the center position where it's like, okay, do we replace the guy? Because in theory, you can do a lot worse than Garrett Bradbury and a lot worse. And obviously Seahawks fans know that. But the ideal situation would be to get somebody like Jonathan Allen in free agency and then Gray's-Able in the draft. And then maybe even on day 2, day 3, another interior offensive lineman just for depth. Or that would be day 3 rather than day 2. But you get what I'm saying. So go all about the trenches and then corner as well, by the way.
Yeah, corner for sure. Whoever it is, I think they should get Murphy back. But it's funny hearing you talk about Bradbury because that's exactly why I was pushing back on the Dalman signing earlier because he's the same guy. And what we saw from Bradbury is when the Vikes couldn't run the football, they get into they become a drop back passing team, and then you realize, okay, well, you're putting him in a situation that's not his strength. And I think he was either first or second in pass blocking efficiency. Like he was just a problem out there, as you just described. So I do agree. Offensive line, go get a Will Fries, whoever. I mean, yes. I think honestly a good signing for you guys too would be Josh Myers, who I'm not the biggest fan of Josh Myers as a Packers fan. I'm not going to really miss him because we took him the pick before Creed Humphrey, and every time he gets a start, I just am reminded of that, and I can't do that anymore. But the Packers are not like the Vikings. The Packers do develop and churn out interior offensive linemen every year. But yeah, I would throw Josh Myers out into the ring for you too. You are making a face. What do we have here?
We have let me just hold on here. This signing to me is not, I'm not a big fan of this, at least initially. We have a Dan Moore Jr. signing. We have 4 years, 82 million, 50 guaranteed to the Titans.
Oh my gosh. It was I don't remember who put it out there this morning, but someone did have a big post that his contract, I think it might have been Schefter, was like, look out for him. Like he's going to get, I mean, supply and demand, man. This was not a good tackle free agency draft. A free agency class. We see this every year in free agency that teams are willing to cash out to fill in their needs. Hey, if I went through a whole year with Nicholas Petit-Frere as my right tackle, I would pay $20 million a year to Dan Moore as well. Massive overpay. I don't even hate it, though. I honestly don't even hate it because they're not going to be in a great spot to like fill that in the draft because they're not going to do that with their first pick. Like I don't think they're going to trade down far enough where like Membu makes sense or anything like that. And then you're getting into like second round territory. Like it just gets murky. Like just go get a guy that can play. He's fine. He's like, if you ranked the 60 starting tackles in the league, he's firmly like 48th. But at least he's a starting caliber player. He will have some losses, but it's not like Nicholas Petit-Frere where like you might as well like not even have him on the field, frankly.
Dude, there were reps where I would there's if you've ever been on True Media, there's a specific thing where you can like sort by pressures, and if you just go look at like Nicholas Petit-Frere's pressures that he allowed, there were a couple that I looked up during Will Levis's rookie season, and I was just like this whether it's Will Levis or Patrick Mahomes or prime Aaron Rodgers, there is no chance that somebody is surviving with this. So I agree, overpay, but it's if I did give a grade, I'd probably give it a C. I'd give it around a C. I'm not a big fan of $50 million guaranteed for Dan Moore. Good for Dan Moore, though, dude. He got the bag.
Yeah.
It's also kind of, I'll tell you this, it's a depressing feeling knowing he's a month younger than I am and he just got $50 million guaranteed. It's like, oof, it's a tough pill to swallow. But,
I would give it a B, and I want to ask you this. What else would you have done?
That's the thing. So it's like, it's the overpay. C is like, it's average, where it's like, okay, I'm kind of weighing everything where you have the overpay, but then you also have the fact of like, you're not going to take Armand Membu number 1 overall. So I get it, but it's like kind of your hands kind of forced to the fire. And that's why I would kind of give it, if you want to bump it to a C+, B-, go for it. But I'm just not a big Dan Moore Jr. fan. And he allowed he allowed the most sacks in the league last year. Now the pressures were not as high, but the sacks were, and you can probably attribute some of that to Russ.
It's not great when your quarterbacks are Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, who hold the ball as long as anybody in the league. Looks like we have Milton Williams to the Panthers. My chat is blowing up with that. My chat is blowing up with Milton Williams to the Panthers. I don't see any numbers. I'm imagining it's 25 to 30 million. I need my bell. Hold on.
Somebody said, I have Milton. Hold on. What's the bell?
Wait, this is my correct take bell.
Oh,
this is me. I'm a full of myself football analyst bell.
Good for you.
But podcast on Sunday, I had Milton Williams as the ideal signing for the Panthers. So you guys can go check out the breakdown of the podcast, I guess, if you want the spiel. But no, Well, I just love it, man, because you put him next to Derek Brown, and I'm assuming it's confirmed. I mean, I've got like 50 people in the chat. Like,
I do as
dropping
well.
it. So,
yep.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Milton Williams, number one in pass rush win rate, by the way, this season for the Eagles, just monster blow up for him. Big reason he was able to do that was his own development, but also he's next to Jalen Carter, who's getting doubled all the time. Derek Brown's going to get doubled all the time. So he's going to have a similar setup. Just love this so much for the Panthers the scheme fit, the need, like to attract him in to be like, hey, you're going to be the highest paid free agent, but you know, he's going to have options. And like, this is a place that you want to be, you want to come win. And it, again, that draft flexibility. Now they can go into the draft and like, if their guy is there pass rushing wise at 8, great. But they also don't have to like reach on a need there. They can be more flexible in the draft. There's just so much to like about this. Keep pounding, baby. My Carolina Panthers are back.
I do want to address a couple super chats, by the way. That is like, I'm happy for Panthers fans. I just wish that we could confirm the numbers. And that's
it's gonna be
you're right though. It's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be
4 years, probably 100 and north of 100.
I would say
probably be 4 years, like 110, maybe even up to like 120 with some fluff on the back end of it, and probably about 70 or so guaranteed. It would be my guess. It's gonna be the biggest cash deal of free agency. So,
and I'll say this: I give this an A because first off, you're upgrading the position, and I know everybody. Look, I'm not like defending any of this guy's actions at all, but like. David Tepper puts his money where his mouth is, dude. Like when it comes to free agency, the dude is just like, hey, like, look, whatever you need Dan Morgan to go help the football team, like go for it. Last year was the guards with Hunt and it was and Lewis. It was $150 million last year in guard play. Now you're addressing the trenches. So I'm all for it for the Panthers to go get Milton Williams. And the biggest thing that I've talked about with the Panthers over the past, like I really say since the season ended, their defense was not good in 2024, and it didn't have anything to do with the Jourdan Rivera. The talent,
Garrett, it was historically bad.
That's what I'm saying. I'm getting there. But my point was, it didn't have anything to do with the Jourdan Rivera. So it was right. Because the talent was awful. So anytime you can go get an upgrade, and then hopefully when Derek Brown comes back healthy, now you're starting somewhere. Now the
Avero, by the way, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
Avero, by the way, Fangio background guy. So like, in terms of terminology, scheme, where you're going to use them, how he's going to win, like just literally just copy and paste everything he did under Fangio, where he had his breakout year. I love that you brought up like the Tepper thing, because again, not defending, throwing a drink on a fan and all that,
right?
But I do think back to think about what was said about the Texans and their ownership before they started winning, right? Like, there's all these accusations and people want to run the ownership out of town and all this stuff. All of a sudden, they get a quarterback, they start winning games. No one says a peep about the ownership. I like what you said about Tepper does want to win. He will put his money where his mouth is. I was talking to Eric Eager, who just got the job for the Panthers last year in their analytics scouting department. And just talking to him at the combine, and like, I asked him, I was like, how are vibes out there? Like, things have got to feel really good right now. And he was like, this is like a pretty special building right now. Like, the vibes in Carolina have just been completely flipped on their head compared to a year ago. And it's just like, this signing, I think, is just going to keep raising that up and up and up. And I'm just such a sucker for the Panthers, man. I think they could push for the NFC South next year. I really do.
Shout out to Queen City, by the way. Shout out to Queen City, dude. Beautiful, beautiful area.
Oh, yes. Shout out Charlotte. It's sad. Sad to not be there for the Panthers glow up. I got some super chats. Do we have?
So. Yep.
Okay. You go first.
Hold on, I'm trying to scroll here. Go ahead, because I'm scrolling.
All right. Yeah, it kicked me out of my my chat room for a second. All right, I got it. Well, this one's spot on. Thoughts on the Jaycee Horn deal? I don't have any big takes about it, but I mean, great to get him locked up. Again, vibes are good. Today, they're in that building. They're going to fly in Milton Williams on David Tepper's private jet. They're going to come in, Jaycee Horn, Milton Williams. They got a couple guys back, re-signings too. Like they're gonna really be feeling good about everything heading into next year. I think he played up to it last year. He's just got to stay healthy. I think he's now the highest paid corner in the league. I don't have an issue with that. He's just got to stay healthy. Dumpster, thank you for the super chat. Matthew, if I was Cleveland, would I have kept Myles Garrett? I was thinking about this yesterday. I would have actually loved to kind of hit the reset on Cleveland and get picks for Myles Garrett, but realistically, like it was going to detonate their team because all of that future money that they've restructured and the void years and all that, like pushing it into the future, if they trade him, that all escalates to this season. So they were going to have to not just trade him away, but like cut a bunch of guys. It was really going to be tough. And I do want to shout out Cleveland for working that out with Myles Garrett. Just on a like human level, like just to have conversations, talk through things, say, here's the plan. We think you could be a part of this and work it out. I think Cleveland deserves credit for navigating a pretty messy situation. I do have some more. Let's just try to rip through them, I suppose. But from Legion, could Jerrion Jones work at strong safety if he cleans up tackling? I do think he could play safety if he improves his tackling. That's a big if, though. But yeah, his range and ball skills could definitely play at safety, but definitely a big if on cleaning up the tackling. From Connor, now the Falcons cut Grady Jarrett and couldn't retain Drew Dalman. Where do you think they go from here? Expecting to cut David Onyemata as a cap casualty. Yeah, the Falcons are tough because they don't have a ton of cap space. So I'm not going to sit here and say you should go spend a bunch of money on, linemen. I think for them, they not only did they desperately need defensive linemen when they took Michael Penix in the top 10, but the guys they took got hurt. Like they trade up for Okoronkwo, right? Yeah. Was that right? The Clemson D tackle. And he wasn't able to. Ororo. Thank you. Yeah, they trade up for him, and he's unable to play. I think the Oregon edge that they took, Dorless, I think he was hurt. So, like, the pieces that they invested in weren't healthy. So, like, they got to get those guys back. They got to get some development from those guys. You've got a defensive coach for a reason. You've got to be able to get something out of those guys. That, I think, is the number one thing that has to happen. You can try to find some budget signings on veterans and stuff, but it's just a tough situation, man. I don't have a God send, here you go, you get Myles Garrett answer for you. It's they just got to grind, man. Bryce, thank you for the super chat. Colorado, super chat. Adebo is gone. Should the Saints take Will Johnson? No, Saints got to beef up the line. Yeah, I'm a firm believer that if you're in a situation like the Saints, you do not take a cornerback. You take offensive line, defensive line. You got to build through the trenches. Dropping Will Johnson into there, that's great. He's going to be sitting there like, what do you guys want me to do here? Like, I can't cover for 4 seconds. And then it's just, no, you don't take Will Johnson. Go mid-rounds on corners, in my opinion.
Wait, Marcus, let me cut you off. Are you good with, are you not a fan of Cameron Jourdan at $20 million a year in 2025?
Oh, I was thinking Cam Bynum. I thought you were about to tell me Cam Bynum just got $20 million.
Cameron Jourdan.
Yeah, dude, Cameron Jourdan is so bad. He's literally just there as a position coach and a mentor at this point.
He's like the defender. He's like the Udonis Haslam of the NFL. Do you know who that is from the chance? If the chat, you know.
Yeah, my NBA knowledge is so bad these days.
Well, basically he played from like 2003 to like 2014, and then from 2016 to like 2022, the Heat kept him on the roster, and he played like in a 82 game season, he played like 150 minutes a year. Like he was like a 2 minute, like he would play like 10 minutes one night, go like 20 games without playing. And then it was hilarious just because they kept him on as an unofficial player coach for years.
Oh man.
By the way, the Patriots signed Carlton Davis, 3 for $60, 34.
Yeah.
guaranteed. I got to go through my super chats as well.
Yeah, you do your super chats. Then we'll catch up on some signings. We're just going to have to be a little bit behind on super chats, you guys. But yeah, Garrett, your channel, you guys take it away.
All right, Twitch. What are the Seahawks trying to do? They can't claim to try and compete when they get rid of DK, but they don't stink enough to get a top pick. They're in a tough situation. I said last night that I kind of respect them trying to kind of rebuild on the fly, just because it's like, hey, like it goes back to the fact of I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl with Geno, and I know obviously the interior offensive line is a tremendously big deal, and whether that's Geno, whether that's Darnold, or whoever, that was always going to be an issue for the Seahawks, no matter what, right? So what are they trying to do? I think it's going to be kind of have like one more year of like try and run it with somebody like Sam Darnold or Aaron Rodgers, and then in 2026, if it does not work out, then try and get a quarterback from there. That is my personal thing. Now let me go back to the live chats. There we go. I actually had the screen like kind of not refresh. Legion of Boom says, do you think Justin Fields could go to Seattle? I could see it, but I think it's more of a Darnold or Rodgers at this point. I think Fields would be there. I think Fields would be more of a legitimate dart throw. Now I'm running into a problem because I can't go all the way back with the live chat, which is that's frustrating.
While you're trying to fix that, I'll chime in on that. I think I do think with Mike McDonald in year 2, they're not trying to blow everything up. Their roster's in a pretty good spot. You know, the Metcalf thing, I understand you didn't want to pay him $33 million. Right. Especially if in their position, I wouldn't want to do that either. So moving on from him is not a tank move. It's a value move, and saying we'll get a second round pick and that cap space. We value that more than what Metcalf brought to the table, which frankly, what he brought to the table last year, I 100% agree with them. But they're going to have a competitive signing, whether it's Darnold or Rodgers.
I think everybody agrees with that, to be honest. I think that's I'd be surprised if they stray away from that. Justin, this also applies to you, Marcus. He says, I'm on a road trip listening. Love the content. Hope the road trip's going good. Hopefully you're being safe on the road. Alex texted me, shout out Cookout, obviously the best fast food burger place literally known to man. Dylan said, do you think the Seahawks are panning for Manning? I do not at all. I think they are far, far too talented to do that. And I also don't think that's I don't think any team would actually do that. I think there's maybe one or two teams that would be in position to actually attempt that.
New Orleans,
Seahawks,
maybe.
Yes, New Orleans is the one I was thinking of. But Seattle their roster is it's good. Like they have a lot of star players, or a lot of really good above average players. Maybe not star, but a lot of above average.
They don't have really holes. It's just the interior of the offensive line, and now wide receiver too, I guess. But you can find that.
I have Rams fan. This is from Sweeper. Not excited about Tay. Not a deep, or they need a deep threat, is what he said. I like the Tay signing a lot. I know you were probably.
Oh, Devontae?
Yes. Were you upset about that? I'm assuming.
Who was the commenter there?
Sweeper. It was a super
Sweeper. I not to like shamelessly plug my deal here, but I broke this down like on the show a couple days ago. Like the Rams need that Odell role in their offense. They need a guy that's going to be available on those backside digs for Stafford. It's just like an automatic part of so many of their passing concepts. And, you know, Demarcus Robinson was okay at that. He has DUI stuff. They're not going to bring him back. They can upgrade. And they weren't going to bring him back anyway. They desperately need that role in their offense. They need a guy that can beat man coverage as well, because as good as Puka Nacua is, he's actually not that good man-to-man. He's not that great at separating off of that. Devontae is going to be able to do both those things flawlessly. And I don't think they really are a team that's like, oh, we need a guy to just, and I'm guilty of this when I play Madden too, but, they don't need the guy they're just going to stick on the outside and say, go run a go ball. And that's your verticality. That's not really how they operate. They look at that 55-yard intermediate part of the field as like, this is our money zone. We have to be hyper efficient here. And Devontae Adams in that area of the field is going to be money for them. So I love the Adams signing. Makes total sense. Basically flipping Kupp's money for Adams money, skill set wise. Like Kupp and Puka had become redundant for what they do. I think it was just an absolute slam dunk move to bring him in.
I do as well. And it also needs to be noted that Devontae's actually cheaper than Cooper Kupp. His cap hit was bad. It was like north of 30 million. I have from CEO here. It says, what are the Steelers' chances of signing C Ward? I'm assuming that's Trevarius Ward. I haven't even given that any thought, to be honest.
For the Steelers, was it?
Yes, the Steelers. I mean, I feel like it would be the same as everybody else. I mean, I don't think it's egregiously high or low one way or the other, personally.
Yeah, I don't. I think they're.
Something?
Well, I think they're probably busy talking to Rodgers at the moment,
right?
But I think that they need to get a corner. Dante Jackson's a free agent. I don't think they bring him back. He definitely fits what they want. I don't know that you necessarily want Charvarius Ward and Joey Porter Jr. because you're going to end up with a penalty on every other drive on third down. So something to think about there. But I do definitely think being active for a corner would be smart for Pittsburgh.
I'll say this regarding Charvarius Ward for anybody. I think that he's going to have a bounce back year in 2025. He had a personal tragedy this past year, and that was, I mean, obviously that's way bigger than football. And I mean, that's, I think he was a really good player in 2023. Obviously his family is way more important than a football. I'll just leave it at that. And then somebody said Russ to the Giants. That's not like confirmed, although I would like that. Or I would love the drama around that. Should I add? I don't think it's Russ's. I mean, putting your job in Brian Daboll and Joe Shane's hands in the hands of Russell Wilson would be something. We have thoughts on Paulson, Adebo to the Giants. No numbers yet. I like it. I mean, Go ahead. The Deonte Banks selection was just awful. It was unfortunate process with the Giants needing a receiver entering the 2023 draft, and in not just one or two consecutive picks, but quite literally 4 with JSN, Johnston, Flowers, and then Addison go directly in front of you. And then you have to take Deonte Banks, who has been a draft bust, and he's had effort concerns. And there's the one clip in particular against the Eagles of all teams, not that it's like in a game against, I'll use the Browns as an example because I know they played last year. Not against a team that's selecting in the top 5, but against the future Super Bowl champion, a division rival that you should get up for, that you are getting pulled off the field because of a lack of effort is not good. So Paulson Adebo upgrades the corner room, and you're in a division with 6 games a year. You have to face a star receiver. Some are superstar level, others are star level, but you are facing at minimum a star receiver 6 times a year, and in some cases 2 in one game. So I'm all for it.
Yeah. I mean, I would say absolutely 6 superstars with Terry, CD, and AJ Brown. And then, you might draw Devontae Smith. I like Deonte Banks, man. It's tough to see. I'm still pulling for the year 3 breakout. If, maybe a better culture can get him to, take things a little more seriously. Maybe the Russ thing is, I guess I haven't thought about it too much, but it'd be a good backup plan for the Giants. It's not plan A. Probably not plan B, but it might be plan C, where it's like, well, we struck out on Rodgers and, we'll see how the draft plays out. Try to go get to number 1, get Cam Ward. But like, if they're sitting there at number 3 and it's like, well, Cam Ward and Shedeur just went, I guess we just got to start Russ. Like, it's good to at least have someone in the building that isn't Drew Lock. So it's, plan C maybe would make sense.
I have just a couple, this is a hilarious one. Matt said, hey, no offense intended, but how old are you? I'm 26. And then the next part he commented, I thought you were Marcus's son or something. So I mean, I actually found out in Mobile that Marcus is about 4 years older than I am. I thought we were the same age, but he's actually 4 years older than I am. But
anyway,
that's a tough look. That's a tough look. That's a tough look.
I gotta. Yeah, that's a
my
tough pride is down bad.
That's a tough one. I'm not gonna lie.
We should talk about
that I'm not your son.
No, the Patriots getting Carlton Davis.
Yes.
For what was it? 3 years, $60 million.
Yes, 34 guaranteed.
So I love Carlton Davis. I love him in New England. In Mike Vrabel's defense, comes from that kind of quasi Belichick background. He always wants the ability. He wants to have a press man corner, to have the luxury to put him on a number 1 receiver, play cover 1. I think cover 1 in his heart of hearts is Mike Vrabel's favorite coverage, but he's shown to be very multiple when he needs to be. But I think having that is great. And you put him next to Christian Gonzalez, which for a second I forgot was there. That's pretty crazy. You can really have lockdown man coverage across the board. Hopefully Marcus Jones can stay healthy. I can't believe I forgot about Christian Gonzalez for a second when I started talking about that. But it is actually a really crazy duo. A couple other thoughts on that. Carlton Davis is extremely injury prone. So just as a Patriots fan, like, don't count on 18 games of Carlton Davis. He's kind of in the Armstead, the left tackle for the Dolphins, right?
Jourdan Armstead.
He's
Yes.
kind of in that category of like, you kind of sign him knowing that he's not going to play every game, which when you kind of factor that in, $20 million a year is a lot for Carlton Davis. But much better than the Harold Landry signing, that's for sure. And that secondary is pretty nasty. My only other thought on that is I do wonder if that indicates that they don't believe they're going to be taking Travis Hunter in the draft at number 4.
That was my immediate thought as well, because I feel like if you sign, I mean, if you give an average, I mean, it's an average of $11.5 million guaranteed per year. I would be not shocked, very surprised. I would have shocked, like above surprised. I'd be surprised if they took Travis Hunter with this signing. So I'll be eager to see what New England does in the draft. Obviously, I mean, especially with the top 4 pick, but I can't wait to see where they go. But that was kind of my big takeaway with Carlton Davis, was that if they give him an average of $20 million per year, obviously the guarantees are what matters. But Travis Hunter, I feel like it's kind of like, I feel like he can not have to worry about shopping or apartment or house shopping rather in New England, in the Boston area now.
It's not a bad problem to have. I don't know if you've looked at housing prices in Boston lately, but holy hell, dude, it's absurd. It's like the whole rookie contract to get a house in New England. I do have just a couple super chats I'd like to get all caught up on, if that's all right by you.
Yep.
From Brendo, any thoughts on a potential Mark Andrews trade to the Broncos for Courtland Sutton? I think that's probably a little out there. I don't think that necessarily makes sense for Denver. I wouldn't be in a rush to get rid of Courtland Sutton if I'm Denver until I have another option at wide receiver. I mean, Marvin Mims showed some stuff, but that one doesn't quite add up for me. And I also feel like that the value might not add up there. I don't know. That seems a little out there, to be honest. I would say that's pretty unlikely. From Cole, could the Colts try Kenny Moore at safety? It's funny. I've seen people trying to put Kenny Moore at safety for like 4 years. It's like, why? He's a great slot corner. I don't understand the urgency to try to do that. Yeah, he probably could play safety, but you're a much more valuable player as a slot corner if you're one of the best ones in the league. Safeties, it's really hard to impact the game from a deep safety alignment. It really is. So like, yeah, he could do it, but I don't really understand the why behind it. Who do I have in mind for the Jags in free agency? It's a good question. I could see Cooper Kupp potentially being an interesting fit for them with the Liam Cohen connections. Could use a number 2 wide receiver. I'll throw that one out there for the Jags at wide receiver. From Cheesehead Fanatic, why does Goot always let me down? It's a question after my heart. Brian Gutekunst, I will say this: he has a process that
he doesn't let me down.
Himself in, yeah, he's great for you as a Vikings fan. The main thing that bothers me about Gutekunst is so stubborn, and the Packers really in general. I mean, he inherited the Packers way, so he's just a product of the Packers scouting system. But they're way too stubborn about all of their like requirements for what needs to be a first round pick. You got to be young. You got to have played at a high program. You can't have any character red flags. You can't have an injury background. You got to have length qualifiers. You got to test well. It's just like, watch the damn tape and take the best player and think about value for a second. Like taking Quay Walker in the first round was just moronic. So Gutekunst and the Packers just have a very, very outdated first round philosophy that is just infuriating. And they put themselves behind the 8 ball compared to really the rest of the league that I think has woken up in a way that Green Bay hasn't. I have a couple more, but I don't want to hog the camera here.
I got you. I have a couple. I have this is one I wasn't sure on this. This is from War Penguin. It says, should the Eagles trade a first round pick for TH? I'm going to be honest. I don't know who TH is. I don't know if it's Travis Hunter. Oh, T. Higgins. That would make sense. I was thinking Travis Hunter said it would be a lot more than just 32. I don't think they should. T. Higgins would be.
No, that doesn't really make sense, to be honest.
And I'll be honest, I also kind of, to go into this, I've seen a lot of mock drafts with the Eagles as a wide receiver as a team need. And it's just like, you have AJ and Devontae. I just don't think wide receiver is a team need. I mean, it's, I guess technically.
I have a take on this.
Go ahead. I'm eager to hear it.
I have said this since Jackson Smith and Jigba came out, because he was a common mock draft for the Eagles. And I'm like, why? You have a quarterback that is already a first read player that struggles to get the ball to Devonta Smith enough. Like, why do you need you saw what happened with Jahan Dotson? Like, right. I think Jahan Dotson could play, but he got 20 targets this year?
I think he finished with 19 receptions.
Yeah, it's like, get a guy that, Jahan Dotson is the perfect wide receiver 3 for them, because if those guys go down, I think he can step in as a 2 and be maybe okay. You would literally be using a first round pick on someone that would be like a backup type. Like, you need to step up, and that's just a luxury of all luxuries if you're hoping to have like a star wide receiver off the bench. Like, it's just can't have everything, I don't think, in Philadelphia.
That's where I stand. That's my biggest one. Is I hate whenever it's like, oh, wide receiver is a team need. I'm with you. I mean, Smitty had career lows this year. I know he missed a couple games, but the Devontae didn't have a great year this year. Not because he's not a good football player. It was just, I mean, when you have a back that goes for 2,000 yards and Jalen Hurts has another 14 rushing touchdowns, and obviously there's only one ball to go around. So I don't think they should trade a first. And then I have another one about. I was going to interrupt you about the Jags part. The super chat is thoughts on Michael Mayer to the Jags via trade. Little spoiler, I'm actually doing a video. Tomorrow that'll be released tomorrow about players that are entering a now or never year, and I discussed Michael Mayer. I don't think Michael Mayer is a case of, you know what, he just doesn't have it. There's players that certainly applies to. I don't think Deonte Banks is an NFL caliber corner, at least based on what we've seen. I know there's been a couple of flashes, but the mindset is the biggest one for corner, just to give you a reference of a player that I'm not hot on. But Michael Mayer to me is a guy that he's had the flashes. I mean, he's had multiple games where he looks like he could legitimately be the guy, but now you have, not an exaggeration to say, a guy who had an all-time rookie season at the same position. So Michael Mayer going to the Jags would be for me, it would be kind of like a dream fit. That would be, or not dream fit, but dream like destination, because you would have Trevor, you'd have BTJ, you'd have Mayer. I would be all in on that Jags team. And by the way, just quickly, he meant Trey Hendrickson.
I saw that in my chat too. I was going to let you know. And that would make a lot more sense. I think we agree.
Yes, 100%.
With the Eagles, it's like, if they're going to spend money in free agency, for me, it would be to go get like a star pass rusher. Like, I thought Myles Garrett actually kind of made sense for them. They actually, believe it or not, have a little wiggle room with the cap, but I think they want to be careful with it, because they do have a bunch of contracts coming up. They've structured all these deals to maximize this team. So the more and more pressure you put into that pot, it does just make things harder. I think they like their guys. I don't think they're going to be a team that comes out and signs 4 or 5 veterans for $7 million here, $8 million there. To me, they're more of like, okay, if we can find a splash and get a Trey Hendrickson or a Myles Garrett or something like that, we'll do it. We'll find a way to make it work for one guy. But otherwise, I think they're going to be pretty quiet.
I apologize. I'm not realizing that it was Trey Hendrickson. That was pretty dumb on my part, but it's like,
how dare you not know TH is Trey Hendrickson?
No, I've tried to explain this before, but it's one thing when you were watching somebody, it's like, oh, you could, it's just the difference between watching and then being live, and it's like, oh, that makes more sense. Whenever you're watching it, just pops into your head like snap of a finger. But yeah. No, Trey Hendrickson, I would be all for, by the way, because I was all for the Birds going to get Myles Garrett. I was all for it. If you get Myles Garrett with Jalen Carter, Cooper DeJean, and Quinyon in the back end, go for it. So Trey Hendrickson is, I feel like, not underrated, but he's coming off of back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons. Go get him. If you can go get him, go get him. I mean, and if you get another Super Bowl because Trey Hendrickson has maybe not a third 17.5 sack season, but if he has a 15 sack year, another Pro Bowl, which would be his 5th straight, who cares? I mean, who cares? Banners fly forever. I would literally do anything to be able to say my team's a one-time champion. So go for it. Yes, I would love it. Trey Hendrickson in 2025 would be better than take your choice of Donovan Ezeraku, Princely Monmielen, whoever. You're in the Super Bowl window. I'm all for it. Do it. That's where I stand on that.
Yeah. I just had my super chats and then it kicked me out, but I did get the chat blowing me up that the Patriots got Morgan Moses here.
Ooh.
And there you go, Patriots. I am such a Morgan Moses fan. He's on my all-time list of like just all-time underrated players. This dude's been just like a franchise right tackle that nobody has actually treated him like a franchise right tackle. He's been passed around the league. I don't understand. Like, does he talk back to coaches or something? Like, I don't understand why everywhere he goes, teams are trying to get rid of him. I don't understand why the Jets, first of all, would let him go. Now, okay, you've just created a gaping hole at right tackle. Have fun again with that. The Jets did this like 2 years ago. They had Morgan Moses. He left. They had a huge problem at right tackle until they signed Morgan Moses again, and now he's gone. So, and now he goes to the Patriots. I love it, man. So the Patriots put him at right tackle. You put him next to Onwenu at right guard, and all of a sudden the right side of your line, you're like, we're good. Those guys got to stay healthy, but the last two signings definitely making up for the Harold Landry deal. The only reason I'm bringing that up is because I did get a super chat from Mod with the Dirt, who asked what the worst free agent move so far is. And will double down on Harold Landry being by far the worst free agency move so far. And I just want to piggyback off of that because I got another super chat from
Flex on
Wolverine.
Hell yeah.
Asking, please expand on Mitchell and Moore signings for Kansas City. In terms of draft strategy, does this mean KC isn't going to draft running back high? So we did a double piggyback there in terms of worst free agency moves. I think you certainly thought Dan Moore getting all, or no, it was Jalen Moore. Jalen Moore. Sorry, I'm mixing up the Moore tackles.
Yeah.
So you would have said Dan Moore, I think, was up there for worst free agent signings. But understandably so. He had his struggles in Pittsburgh last year getting $20 million. But on Kansas City, because we didn't really talk about the Mitchell signing. No, that doesn't change. That doesn't change Kansas City's running back outlook. I think that can't be any more than like a $2 million, whatever deal. Talented player. If he's healthy, that's great. They've got an explosive back that's put up some really good tape. I can't even think of Mitchell's first name because it's been like 2 years since he's been
Elijah
Mitchell.
Yes, Elijah
Thank
Mitchell.
You.
Yep.
I love Elijah Mitchell, but yeah, the dude's legs just cannot hold up. So I can't imagine that was a big investment or anything that's going to change their running back strategies. And we broke down the Moore signing kind of when it came in, but it's a fine enough move, if not a little bit risky for Kansas City.
Breaking. Lions are signing.
No.
Yes. Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it.
Lions are signing. I was on edge. I saw the chat talking. Lions are signing DJ Reed. I don't like it as a Vikings fan. As an analyst, a great signing. I mean, they lose Carlton Davis. They bring in. That's how I like to preface this now, by the way, is I can just say Vikings fan and then talk, from an actual analysis perspective. But I don't like it as a Vikings fan because he's a good player. I wanted him on my team, and that's how you know it's a good signing when two division rival fans are like, we don't like this because of how good of a signing this is. So credit to Brad Holmes. Great move. Chat is blowing up right now. But he and I just had a commenter say, I had a commenter say he wasn't that good last year. He did have a bit of a down year, but when he's at his peak, he's really good.
DJ Reed?
Yeah, he had a bit of a slight down year relative to 23. So 23.
Yeah, but, I mean, I don't know if I fully agree with that.
But to finish this real quick, you're in a division where you have, I'll say it, the best receiver in football. You have DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Jordan Addison, and your bunch, if you will, your guys' bunch of receivers. I mean, you have to be able to defend the pass in this division. So good signing. You lose Carlton Davis, who is already a liability in terms of how often he's on the field.
Yeah,
I'd give this an A or an A+. I'm all for this signing for the Lions. Great job by Brad Holmes, who is one of the best in the business for a reason.
Yeah, I mean it's a phenomenal signing. It's gonna be interesting. They're not gonna have 2 5'9" corners out there, DJ Reed and Amik Robertson. But dude, sometimes you think of like undersized corners and say they can't play press man because that's what Detroit likes to do. Is a lot of press man coverage. DJ Reed is really good in press man. He's quick. He gets under your pads. He's strong. He's like 205 pounds. Like it's just a obnoxious signing for the Lions. You guys are gonna love DJ Reed.
Yeah. How about we have another signing? By the way, we're talking Super Bowl champion, bringing the winning experience over from the Eagles. I'm talking 2026th round pick from the University of Massachusetts. The Minnesota Vikings have agreed to terms with Isaiah Rodgers.
You know,
I'm all for it.
Minnesota has not approved legal sports gambling yet. I am very surprised by this signing.
Look, I'm all for it because I want to be all for it. It's only a 2-year, $15 million deal. So there's really not. I mean, it's 2 years, $15 million.
He's a good player. I think you missed my joke there. Yeah,
I did. I got it.
You got it. All right.
It's good. It's good. He doesn't have. I mean, he has Underdog. Promo code Garrett. By the way, Underdog is definitely legal in Minnesota. Promo code Garrett again.
That's true.
So you can get up to $1,000. But anyway, up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So he could definitely work on that. But no, I mean, look, we needed corner help, and the Vikings corner room was, that's a whole. I mean, I can talk about that for like 10 minutes. But look, 2 years, $15 million, 27 years old. I'll take it.
I don't think that's the only corner that they're going to give money here in the next week. I think that says, okay, we've got a starter in Rodgers, and now they're still, I think, going to be trying to make a play to either get Murphy back or Shavarius Ward or Nate Hobbs, whoever their guy is. I think they're still going to be in the market because it's really hard to find rookie corners, especially if you're the Minnesota Vikings, who have had first-round bust after first-round bust at that position group. They don't have a ton of draft picks, so I think using that free agent money to bring in another guy as well. But he's flexible. He can play slot. He can play outside. It's kind of a very logical signing to say, like, all right, we got a guy who's interested. We can plug him in on the team, and then we'll figure the rest of this out as we go.
So are you at all worried that we might, I mean, in our teams here, the Vikings and Packers, there's a lot more Packers that come over than Vikings go to Green Bay. Are you at all worried that there's a current corner on the Packers roster that could eventually become Viking? That's
Eric Stokes?
No. The one that's
Jair.
He's a bit of a yapper.
So the Jair market's been quiet. I thought that would pick up a lot faster than it has. We are now approaching the start of the new league year. I haven't heard that they're going to release him. They very well might. And that would hurt me a lot if he gets released. But there has not been a trade for him or anything like that. It really doesn't make any sense for the Packers to move on from Jair from a team building perspective. So it's going to be interesting to monitor that situation. I would say, yeah, if he gets released, he absolutely would go straight to the Vikings, as so many Packers have. And that would just, I hate the thought of that. I absolutely hate the thought of that. But it's going to be an interesting thing to monitor. I feel like they're still going to move on from him, but the longer he stays on the team and the more corners come off the market, the more I'm like, are they maybe working things out? I don't know. I don't want to get my hopes up too high, but I love Jair. I think
I don't.
I think the Packers are clearly a better football team with Jair. And moving on from him, they take like 17 in dead cap. They save like $6 million. It's like, it doesn't really help the team. So I don't know. It's a tough one. I had a super chat I wanted to shout out just from Kyle. Not a question, but just shout out Kyle. Very kind super chat. Thank you. Eagles fan. We hate you, but we love you, Kyle.
Hell yeah. Go ahead, Kyle.
Yep.
What's up?
I do have some more super chats if we have some downtime. Otherwise, we got any? Okay. if the Seahawks don't sign anyone, fire John Schneider. The Seahawks aren't in a great position to like just go throwing money around. Like, I think being a little bit smarter there. Like, this isn't an amazing free agent class. Like, a lot of these have been relative overpays, if you will. So I don't know that I agree with that, but you definitely want to see them go get an interior offensive lineman for sure. So like, hopefully they can get that done. He's weird. I like John Schneider. He just has a massive Achilles heel, and that is ignoring the interior of the offensive line. And I would be just as annoyed as you are, Romy, that he's not addressing it. From Luke, who would I compare skill and grade wise from last year's draft and current NFL to Josh Simmons? Is he worth the number 10 pick for the Bears? Love this question, and I love Josh Simmons. Have you watched Josh Simmons yet?
Yes,
Garrett?
I love him. Love him. Dude, his tape,
so nice.
His tape, there's a comp for him that I don't. I mean, it's lofty. It's lofty. I'll just say he wears the same jersey number. 71.
71.
71. Think a team that's defeated you in conference championship games, multiple, or multiple playoff. Yeah.
Trent.
Yes.
That's lofty.
Nasty. I mean, like, it's
that's lofty
stylistically. Now, in terms of like how I actually expect him to play is a different thing. But he has a real nice snatch that I've seen multiple times where it's just like, ooh, that's beautiful.
His hand usage is some of the best I've ever seen from a college prospect. I have another lofty comp, David Bakhtiari.
Okay.
Just the way he moves, the pass blocking technique. I don't think he's the run blocker of Trent, personally, but yeah, dude, Josh Simmons tape, easy top 10 grade for me. Coming off an ACL injury, so it's just a medical deal. If the Bears took him number 10, I wouldn't blink. I think you're believing in the ACL to recover, which is reasonable. I think it was in November, maybe even October, so reasonable to think he'll be ready. Comparing him to last year's draft, Troy Fautanu had similar tape, but Simmons has better measurables. Honestly, Paris Johnson coming out of Ohio State, it would be a pretty close comp from a couple years ago. But yeah, dude, he would be on my radar if I was picking for the Bears. Although after all these offensive line moves, I don't know if you're going O-line anymore.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting thought for the Bears, just because. Do you set up like the 1 year, 2 year run, or not 2 year, couple year run with Ashton Genty and just basically say like, hey buddy, here's your prime. Here is, I mean, obviously he's not going to hit his prime at age 27. So like, hey, I'm so high on the Ashton Genty going to Chicago right now. I'm so locked and focused on that I'd be kind of disappointed if it doesn't happen, just because I've built it up in my head over the past couple weeks, or really past weeks since they started making all the moves.
Yeah. One of my super chats says that the Milton Williams deal is not done yet.
Ooh, okay.
So noted. I don't know. Seemed pretty official when it came in, but we will keep an eye on that one, Jacob. Another one, the Jets really let Morgan Moses go twice. Yep, that one's brutal. Brassy says Zay will enter elite status convos after this season. His connection with Lamar will be A-Rod Tay levels, and he's going for 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. I love the call. I don't even disagree. So, I mean, he's just a stud. I'll shout out Brett Coleman. I think he lightly compared him to Antonio Brown, and I mean, I think the ball skills are probably behind where Antonio Brown's were. But in terms of route running, run after catch, all that, I mean, yeah, he's an absolute monster. And then the last one here, I think we're all caught up from Colts. Why are the Chargers not doing anything? They had $90 million in cap.
I have a Chargers super chat that we'll get to in a minute as well.
Yeah. What's yours? We can maybe.
It's related.
Chargers convo.
Yes, it says, what should my Chargers be doing? That's from Justin, who also gave a super chat earlier and said that he's on the road. So he's driving away.
All right. To be fair, they locked up Khalil Mack this morning. That was a big deal. That was something I talked about with them, where like the most reasonable big spending free agent for them would be Khalil Mack, I think. So really good to get that done. I think he's great for the locker room. Still played at a really high level last year. So they're not doing nothing. That was big. And I think there's a lot of time left for them. They want a value hunt, I think, so they're not going to be the team that jumps out and makes, the big splash, I don't think, but so many different holes on that team. I think that they probably have a really nice board set up, and they're kind of waiting to see how things fall in, and they're on the phone trying to get, their thresholds. They don't want to go over certain prices, which, we're 3 hours into free agency. So every agent on the phone is going to be lying about offers and, saying, this is what we need. This is what we need. And then give it a day or two, and some of those price points are going to come down. There's also guys that are extension pieces for them that they're probably still busy with. Poona Ford is another guy that he's one of the best interior defensive linemen out there on the market right now. Was great for them last year, and he's testing the market at the moment as well. So it's like, they're just letting things play out. They're going to spend money. They are going to spend some money because they can attract people to LA, and there's every reason to believe that they can compete at a high level next year. They don't want $90 million in cap space just sitting out there for nothing.
I do have a little prediction for the Chargers. I think that this is kind of something that's been in the back of Jim Harbaugh's head since he took the job, was knowing that they in year one were not going to be a Super Bowl champion, or at least, you can have a realistic conversation with yourself and say that, hey, we're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. You can obviously say publicly that we're going to do everything we can and all that. But I think Colston Loveland's been in the back of his head for a long time. And I love the idea of Colston Loveland going to the Chargers. He's a Harbaugh guy. Harbaugh recruited him out of high school. I think that's a dream fit, especially with Justin Herbert. And Colston Loveland, for the benefit of the Chargers, had a bit of a down year this past year. The quarterback play was not good at Michigan.
Yeah.
There was a tweet the other day that I replied to it. It irritated me because it was just not. It just wasn't accurate for Colston Loveland. I think he's a really good prospect, and he to me, he's a first round caliber player. So I think that's a player that the Chargers have had on their minds for a long time. Now to go for a couple here, or a couple super chats here. I'm curious where you stand on this, but the Garf he's a loyal supporter. He's a beast. He said, guess the Jags are moving Jerry and Jones outside. That was in regards to the Jourdan Lewis signing. And Jerry and Jones, like we said earlier, he had the high missed tackle percentage this past year. He'll be entering year 2 in 2025. And just to give you an idea of a breakdown of his snap counts last year, he had 625 snaps at slot, and he had 7 snaps at outside corner, to give you an idea. And technically 3 at free safety.
Yeah, it's easy to sit here right now and project him to move outside. That's definitely what they'll do. Like, they'll give him a go at it. I don't know that he'll necessarily be good at it or win that job, or that, it's a different regime, right? New front office, new coaching staff.
Right. Great point.
Maybe he can, maybe he can't. I don't know. I watching him at Florida State, I only saw him play in the slot as well. Now I'm second guessing that. I think he might have actually played outside at Florida State a little bit.
Let's take a look.
Now I'm actually thinking he might have played outside his final year or the year before that.
He had 4 years of outside, and then in his final year he had slot. Okay. He had over 1,200 snaps at outside, and then in his final year he had nearly 400 snaps at slot. So there's definitely a lot of experience there. He'll be 24 in May. So I do like the future of Jerry, and at least for or not the future, rather 2025, to give him a year. But that was a great point with the previous regime, is there's no ties here, unfortunately. So we'll see what James Gladstone and Liam Cohen's vision is. But the biggest thing with Jourdan Lewis was it was an upgrade, and that's good for the Jags. And he had around a 3-year, $30 million deal. Now I had another one. This was super chat. Have a great stream, Kings. DK overpay, by the way. That was the super chat. My guy AK, he's another loyal supporter. He said, please do something in all caps. Trevarius word, please. And then he also, fantastic work. I love you. Appreciate it. Love you guys. And then I'll let you get to the Goot part in a second. And then Sims fan said, struggling to rationalize 50 million guaranteed for Dan Moore to break up the Latham-Skaronski combo. Help me cope. So I'll help you cope by giving you this easy. Dan Moore would play right tackle. That's right.
Presumably, he's done both for Pittsburgh. You're not going to take
overthinking this, right? Yeah, that was my thought process.
Unless they do view him as they want to get him to the right side, which honestly, I think he's a right tackle. I don't think he's a left tackle, but either way, I don't have an issue with it personally. Whichever one they decide to do there.
So did you have a comment on the? By the way, I'm not a fan of the $50 million guaranteed for Dan Moore either. But like we said, you had to get rid of Nicholas Petit-Frere because that was like that was some of the worst tape I've seen over the past couple of years. Just the pressures allowed were bad. Now
it was so bad.
They were.
I think it was awful. The worst player that played in the NFL last year.
Like that actually played, not for like a cup of tea, but that actually continuously played. I would not disagree with that. 250
plus snaps. I think he's the worst player that got 250 plus snaps last year.
I have a comment that says, and I don't know if this is official, but it says Milton Williams is talking to the Vikings, Cardinals, and the Panthers have not signed him yet. Don't know if that's official, but that's what a comment said.
Once upon a time, Anthony Barr.
He did. He went to the Jets.
What was it? He went to the Jets and then came back or something like that.
Yes. I texted Connor Rodgers immediately and it was like, sorry, dude. But that was, it was, I was ecstatic.
It's the weird thing about legal tampering, right? Like these guys aren't legally obligated. Now, as an agent, it's a bad look. Like if you are an agent and you do this to the Panthers, and you say we're in and then you're out, you're going to burn a lot of bridges in that front office. So there's a reason that like 99% of these deals end up coming to fruition. But yeah, sometimes things change. Another team comes in and it's part of the deal.
To discuss the Dan Moore real fast, I do have a commenter that said Steelers notoriously did not play their first Troy Fautanu at left tackle because Dan Moore is so bad at right tackle. So Jaycee obviously played his final year or his collegiate career at Alabama and then moved over in his rookie season. So we'll see. I'm
also seeing comments that say that Latham is going to move to right tackle. So,
oh boy. Yeah,
I actually like it.
I like the Latham part. I like the Latham part. The Dan Moore it's a lot.
Yeah.
We'll see how that works out. It's just a lot for who he is. But
I think
you had to upgrade.
So like I've had to admit like Latham's a little better than I thought he was. I still don't think he's like a slam dunk pick with the 7th pick or whatever it was, but he certainly wasn't like a liability. But there were some games this year. You saw it week 1, you saw it like week 12 when he had to go against Danielle Hunter and the Texans. Like the main reason I didn't like him is like he doesn't have great feet. And when you put that at left tackle, assuming your quarterback's going to be a right-handed thrower, if you're losing that bend, that corner around the edge, that's like all those strip sacks come in when the quarterback doesn't know it's coming. And it's just like, if you need both left and right tackle, I do think putting him on the right side makes more sense. The league is adjusted to the fact that like left tackle, right tackle, it's not as big of a deal as maybe it was in like the 90s. When left tackles got paid like twice what right tackles did. There's been a much more of a meeting in the middle there. But there is still something to be said about like the blind side and like the left tackle or the quarterback's blind side being more valuable. So I do think from like maximizing what Jaycee Latham realistically will be, I like him as a right tackle.
Also, they were referring to Broderick Jones rather than Fautanu, so apologies. But Fautanu did play right tackle before he had a season-ending injury. He did play right tackle against Denver, so that's why I was like, "Oh, that makes sense." So, anyway, we're just waiting on more moves.
If
you have any more super chats,
I think I had a super chat, but it keeps like, does it keep doing it to you, where it keeps kicking you out of your
chat?
Your YouTube, like
a little bit, yeah, because I had to refresh. So there were a couple times where I was like, "Oh man, like are we live?" And I know the Wi-Fi is not the problem, but I was like, "Are we like? Did I accidentally freeze up?" I froze up one time during a stream by myself, but I actually just got a super chat here.
Go for it.
It's not what you think. I'll just leave it at that. It's from Kevin, and direct quote: "Have you ever seen 2 girls, 1 cup?"
Oh my goodness.
So like 2 girls, 1 cup, like the fantasy nickname for Cooper Kupp because you have Cooper Kupp on your team, or what?
Do you want to answer that question?
I guess I would say let me see here. I plead the fifth would be the best professional answer. I feel like that would be the best.
I'll be honest. I'll give an honest answer. My answer is no. Honest answer is no. because it was, like I can't believe we're answering this, but I love it. It was a 8th grade Call of Duty night. We had the mini fridge loaded with Monster energy drinks, because that's what was cool. And I was aware of what the video was. Right. I had heard people talking about it, and I had no interest in seeing it. But the guys I was with, I will not name you guys, but the guys I was with decided to watch it, and I responsibly actually did not even look. So I very easily could have turned a shoulder and saw it. But full honesty, I know you guys don't believe me, but full honesty, I actually did not see it.
Actually, same. Obviously, know what it is. Obviously, no, I'm actually with you. I know what it is, but did not have the luxury of having my 2 eyes watch that video.
Oh man,
I do have another super chat unrelated to that, by the way. I know you guys think the Panthers are overpaying Jaycee Horn, but I think they needed him, locker room guy. Plus, the deal gets done before a bunch of other CBs get paid. Thoughts? Appreciate the super chat, and I like where your head is. For me, it's not the overpay of Jaycee Horn, the player. It's the overpay of missing 45% career of your games. That's the part that I struggle with. Now, if Jaycee puts the injuries behind him, and if he plays, I'll even say an average of 15 rather than 17, 14, 15 games a year, and you get the player that Jaycee Horn is, give me that every time, especially before Sauce gets paid, especially before everybody, Sertamba's already paid, but especially before Stingley gets paid. Because I would imagine that Sauce is probably going to shoot for 27, or maybe even because 27's close, hey, let's just go for 30 a year. So if you the thing is, for me, is the lack of guarantees whether or not if he's going to play. I'm actually getting the super chats rolling in now. But if you want to keep going here. If you want to go,
why don't we just play a little super chat tennis and just bounce
Go ahead. There we go.
So I got Echo. Thanks again, Echo. This is your second super chat of the day. Echo was on a Madden stream on my Twitch one day. He was saying he had just bought a new hoodie, and he was saying he saves all his extra money to support his favorite content creators, which is so admirable, Echo.
That's awesome.
So thank you. You're doing the Lord's work. But is there a world where the Cardinals, who have been quiet again, by the way, the Cardinals do something like I did this last year with them? But is there a world where the Cardinals look to take like a first 2 days developmental type of QB, and if Kyler doesn't look good this year, they look to move on? It pains me to say, I think it's in the back of their mind, maybe Kyler isn't the guy. I think that's probably where they're at. I think, more good than bad last year, still a guy that had the Cardinals really as a sleeper team, in a position to potentially win the playoffs, to go into the playoffs, win that division. I do think, unfortunately, once the hype got created, that's when the bad tape showed up. I don't know, man. He kind of buckled up. He stopped pushing the ball downfield. He stopped using his legs. Hopefully he just got in his head and can kind of get back to what he did in the first half of the year. Also, him and Marvin Harrison were so many times on having some dynamism there. So, first 2 days developmental QB, I don't think so. The Eagles once upon a time took Jalen Hurts, and I did not see that coming with where Carson Wentz was probably arguably at a similar point in his career at that time as Kyler is now. So I wouldn't rule it out, but I think if you get to the 4th round and Kyle McCord's there, or maybe Jalen Milroe falls or something like that, sure, 4th round, I think. But for me, it's one more year of really trying to make sure this team is as good as possible for Kyler. And I think spending a day 2 pick on that would be counterproductive.
I was just saying, how about your boy Tyler from Louisville?
Yeah, Tyler Shuck. Love Tyler Shuck.
Obviously not playing styles, but that's yeah. I wasn't going for that. I was just more of just a developmental situation.
Well, yeah. The interesting there is he's as old as Kyler is.
Right. Yeah, he's 20. He's 25.
He's gonna turn 26 this year. Kyler Murray is probably what, 28.
He's a year older.
Kyler.
Yep.
Kyler turns 28. Yeah. So that's why I laughed there. But yeah, dude, I love Tyler Shuck. I would absolutely spend a 4th round pick on him if he's there.
All right. I have, let's see here. I have from Man Tequila. Assuming there are 2 equal prospects on the board, should the Texans go interior offensive line or receiver with their 1st round pick? I might surprise you here. And I'm going to say receiver only because there's a good chance that receiver is Emeka Egbuka, obviously with the history with CJ Stroud. Now, if that player is not Emeka Egbuka and it's Matthew Golden or somebody else, mainly just not Luther Burden or Egbuka, just because I think that Luther Burden can get back to the 2023 version of himself, and I really like that player. And I think that Egbuka would be higher on the Texans board because of the chemistry with Stroud and obviously everything that they did together at Ohio State. I think those would be 2 really, really grand slam hits for the Texans if they were able to get either player in the 1st round. But if it is Matthew Golden versus somebody like, we'll just say Gray Zabel, for example, towards the end of the 1st round, I would prefer to go interior offensive line.
Yeah, if Zabel's there, I would love that for them. I was just trying to check. Not only is Twitter down, but my PFF premium's not loading now too.
Hell yeah.
The internet's just having an all-time day today. The NFL free agency is just shutting everything down, apparently. I was trying to check how many snaps Nico Collins played in the slot. Just because they did just bring in Christian Kirk and Tank Dell can play from the slot. So I was just like trying to formulate a take there, but I can't actually get the slot reps.
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest, dude. I don't know how much they can actually like bank on Tank Dell at this point. And I want to be like wrong on that, but just like that was such a, I mean, it was the dislocated knee plus everything else on either Christmas or like week 17, or it was somewhere. It wasn't enough that it was already all of that, but it was like at the end of the year where it's going to be a year-long injury. And I really do feel awful for Tank Dell and everybody involved, because it's an awful situation. But
Micah, sorry, I just saw you comment. I did skip your super chat. I do apologize about that, but I'm not going to skip it now. How does the DK trade impact the Steelers? We did break this down probably about the 30-minute mark. We spent probably a good 10 minutes on it, if you are able to go back to that. But we talked about how it alludes to either Russ or Rodgers being a really good quarterback fit for them. And we talked about how potentially gonna shift away maybe from George Pickens. Like, I'd be a little surprised maybe if they paid both those guys that much money. Just kind of redundant skill sets a little bit. They can coexist for a year or so, but we kind of broke those 2 things down, and that it was a bit of an overpay, but an exciting addition that obviously adds a lot of explosiveness into that room. And then I have one from Matthew. How cooked are the Bengals, and is their Super Bowl window done? No, I mean, you got Joe Burrow as your quarterback. They're not cooked, and their Super Bowl window is not done. I will say I've started to become very frustrated with their front office, and I'm starting to wonder if they're going to have a real Super Bowl caliber team with how they fumble the cap. Frankly, they have like 4 scouts in their building or something like that. They have desperately needed a good draft and have not had it. And I do worry that, not that they can't win a Super Bowl any individual year, because I just think if you're taking the field and Joe Burrow's your quarterback, you can beat anybody. And I think they will be making the playoffs. Moving forward, they're not going to have a historically bad defense every single year. So like, you're going to have a chance, but you're not going to have as good of a likelihood of doing it any given year. That's kind of my worry with the Bengals. Not that their window's screwed or anything like that. Like, they're going to get these 3 guys back, and they're going to be a good team. But yeah.
I'm with you. It's just I've been tweeting a lot about the Bengals recently, and it's not that I hate the Bengals. It's just my frustration with, like, let's just let Jamar have a triple crown year, not pay him, and then let's just pay him $42 million a year instead of getting him at 35 or whatever it was, and let's just hurt ourselves in the long run. I'm frustrated for Bengals fans, just because. I mean, it's self-explanatory. Like, these are not difficult decisions. Hey, should we pay Jamar Chase? Gee, I don't know. Why don't we let everybody else get paid and then come to the conclusion of what we knew a year and a half ago. So I'm frustrated for Bengals fans because it's obvious. It's not like we're saying, hey, should we bank on this player, stepping up? Or that's like the 7th best starter on the team. You know what I mean? We're talking about one of the 2 best receivers in the NFL. I'm frustrated for Bengals fans. I don't hate the Bengals. I hate the way that they are negotiating, the way that they're going about this, because it's preventable from the start. And then like, hey, let's let Jesse Bates walk, and we know we're going to let him walk because we have to eventually pay Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And now Jesse Bates is entering year 3 in Atlanta. We still haven't paid Jamar or T. Higgins, and Dax Hill is now entering year 3. You get the point, dude. I'm annoyed with everything here.
Bad.
The Patriots.
Carson Palmer was right.
By the way, Splash, the Patriots are getting Milton Williams. This is per Ian Rappaport.
No.
Yes, per Ian Rappaport. I just wanted to address a quick super chat real fast, and then we'll talk about that. But
reverse jingle.
Reverse jingle. Football Analysis, a diehard Saints fan. Just wanted to say, love your video on the future. Screwed as long as Mickey Loomis as a GM. That's from a Saints fan. Appreciate it. And I'm not. I mean, the Saints are. I mean, we've talked about the Saints at length. It's
yeah.
You called, and I quote, Derek Carr the coach killer. So it's just a frustrating all around experience. And I actually had a screenshot the other day where I posted on Twitter. It was talking about the Saints like relieving Cap from Derek Carr's awful contract, and Nick Underhill is like a beat reporter or something for the Saints. And then somebody said, how does that affect his cap hit next year? And then another Saints fan replied and said, I hope it means he's gone. I'm so sick of that MFer, is what he said. So,
Yep. That's about right. Okay. So Milton Williams to the Patriots, not to not be excited for you Patriots fans. It's just the Panthers are kind of like everybody's like, youngest son. And it's just like, we want to see them succeed, but, excited for the Patriots, man. I mean, they got the money to throw around. I wonder if they made a last second phone call there and were like, hey, what did you just agree to? Because we have a bottomless bag of money. And they just probably outpriced the Panthers. So it's the deal is probably going to be even more egregious. Not egregious, but big. I mean, I think he's worth it. I mean, he really broke out last year. I mean, they're getting a little light. Like, if you're looking for a negative note on this, like, I don't like the fit as much. Like, I loved him staying in the system next to Derek Brown. Like, if you wanted him to replicate what he did, being first in pass rush win rate as he was last year for Philly, I really, really like that in Carolina. New England, it gets a little bit more messy, completely different system. And they don't have a Derek Brown that's going to, like, suck away the demand double teams, so you're just exclusively getting one-on-ones. I like Christian Barmore a lot, but he's not like, he doesn't have the gravity I think that Derek Brown has. So I mean, I do like it for New England, don't get me wrong. They desperately need a pass rush. You're now talking about, okay, we got Milton Williams, we got Barmore, we got Keon White, we got apparently freaking Harold Landry is going to try to get after the quarterback again this year.
He'll try.
I can't even believe it, man. But yeah, that's a tough group to deal with for sure. It's a lot of athleticism. So
it was confirmed 26 per year, 26 per year.
Yeah.
I'd imagine 26. I'd imagine it's 4 for 104. I would imagine. But that is the confirmed numbers per Ian Rappaport. So I mean, it goes back to like, you have the money, spend it, go out and do it. And I mean, I would agree with everything you said regarding the fit, because I love the idea of Derek Brown and Milton Williams. But if you are to be a serious team in this conference and not be the Tom Brady or the post Tom Brady Patriots, and just the frustration that New England's had over the past several years, and I could go a long way talking about just with everything over the past 3-4 years, but you have to be able to get after the quarterback. I mean, especially in this conference, especially in your division, knowing Josh Allen's going to be there for the next, I mean, he just signed a big extension, but 7, 8, 10 years. The worst thing a quarterback can face is pressure up the middle. And Milton Williams can provide that. He proved that throughout the 2024 season. So yeah, you're paying premium dollar for it, but it's not really going to affect any contracts, and go for it. He's a good player. He's a good football player.
So it's easy to kind of it's easy to lose track of like everything that's happening here. But now you look at this Patriots defense now, Vrabel coming in, you got 3 incredible interior rushers, a chance to maybe get Abdul Carter. Probably not Abdul Carter, but let's just rewind a second. You got 3 great interior rushers. You have now brought in linebacker, Raiders.
It's Robert Spillane.
You've brought in Robert Spillane. And yeah, Carlton Davis next to Christian Gonzalez, Marcus Jones. We'll see if Kyle Duggar can get healthy, if Jabril Peppers, they gave him a big deal and then had a massive like off-field blow-up like situation. So I actually am not up to date on the Jabril Peppers situation and if he's going to be out there for them next year. But theoretically, if he is, that's probably the most talented defense Mike Vrabel has ever had to work with. His defenses in Tennessee weren't that loaded. So even if the edge group is a little bit thin, that's a great starting point. No, and then you head into the draft and you're like, we can go offense. So
yeah, it just goes back to, like I said, I sit here and watch football every postseason, and it's simple as the idea is, hey, we have to be big up front, big, fast, and strong up front. That's going to win you a lot of games. That, like you said, having Barmore, Keon White, and now Milton Williams, there's probably going to be a game in 2025 that's going to come down to the wire. One of those guys are going to make a play. When it's hell or high water, one of those guys makes a play. Quarterback hit, quarterback pressure, hitting the arm as the quarterback's thrown on a pass that results in an incompletion, 4th down, interception. I love it, man. I love what the Patriots are doing. Now, I wanted to address just 2 quick super chats. Somebody said, please, Mekhi Becton to the Vikings. I am not really worried about the scheme fit right there. I just would be all for having an actual big and strong player on the interior, because Ed Ingram is not good. He was benched for a reason. Dalton Reisner's okay. I'd be all for a big, strong player next to Brian O'Neill. That's what I would have to say about that. Somebody also said Vikings need Will Fries. I would agree with that. You address the interior part of the line that needs it. Sign me up. This is from Arian. Appreciate it. He said, hey guys, I know we're in the midst of free agency, but who would you like the Vikings to draft with their first pick, given other needs are handled in free agency? Love your content, Skull. Just goes back to whether it's Grace Abel, whether it's a defensive lineman. Tyleik Williams would be fine, but I think there's a real chance that we trade back. Just the Chiefs need to trade up. There's a lot of teams that I could see trading up to go get an offensive lineman. I know the Chiefs just address the offensive line, but that would be my thing. Whether it's Grace Abel's a guy I like a lot, but hopefully that answers that. And we also, by the way, have Trevon Moehrig to the Panthers. That is confirmed. I don't know if you saw that. I don't know if you saw that. I did,
and I was thinking about what I wanted to say about it while you were talking there.
Yapping. Yes.
Okay. So this is Marcus, the Panthers fan, talking here. Obvious gut punch to lose Milton Williams just now, and then $20 million for Trevon Moehrig for a up to $20 million. I'm seeing on Spotrac 3 years, 51. So, details are always important here. The Panthers are tough because they don't have like a bottomless bag of cap space to deal with here. Like they were a team that I felt like did have to be somewhat careful with their money. They just dished out like $6 million or so to the tight end,
Tommy Tremble.
Thank you. And that was like, I get why you want him back, but like, they're not, after this Moehrig signing, they're not going to have a whole lot of money left. And it's like, they need edge help. They need D-line help. So you had Milton and you lost him. So for me, it's like, great. We got a safety. I don't know. I don't love how the offseason's coming together right now for Carolina after losing Milton Williams. Moehrig's a nice player, comes downfield, he tackles, splash coverage player, but he's not like, I really don't think he's like a, star safety or anything like that.
I would agree, by the way. We had a fellow YouTuber said, "Looking good, fellas." That was Hoops reference. He's an NBA YouTuber.
Thanks, Hoops.
Yep. So I wanted to address that, but no, it's the Trevon Moehrig. I'm not a fan of the deal. I just look at it as a bad trade-off. Whether it's, hey, pay Milton Williams $26 million or Trevon Moehrig $17 million, I would rather pay more for a premier player every time, especially at that position.
Yeah, it's
I also, by the way, I also really like the safety class for what it is. I tweeted it out the other day. I really like the safety class. Now, it's not the 2024 receiver class of safety positions, but I think there's a lot of depth on day 2 and even early into day 3. And just to pay Trevon Moehrig that amount of money when you could draft a plethora of players at whether it's I'm not a fan of this selection. And I actually want to pull up the signing for the price. Now, if it works out and you end up paying him $20 million per year, that means it was probably a pretty good signing. But I think that you could have had, for the production that you'll receive, because they don't have their second round pick due to the Bryce Young trade 2 years ago, but they do have the Rams second round pick from the Braden Fisk trade from last year. So they're working with 3 top 100 selections, 5 in the top 113, and they're sitting there early on day 3 with 2 selections pretty much right off the bat. Theirs and Dallas is a pick 113. They have 110 and 113. You could package those in some capacity to move up to the 80 to 90 range on Friday night or on day 2 of the draft. I'm not the biggest fan of the Trevon Moehrig signing. I hope it works out. But
I do think just like the fact that it's stacked right on top of losing Milton Williams adds this oh, frick, like feel about it. I will say this. I went to 4 Panthers games last year, and the one thing you did feel watching them live is the difference in speed, downhill speed from that secondary when you watch the Panthers defense versus whoever else they were playing. You did feel it. And teams would throw a ball over the middle of the field. There was that the one I saw live that really, really felt it, but I had this thought beforehand was against the Bengals, and Jamar Chase catches it over the middle field, breaks 6 tackles, and he's to the house for like a 60-yard touchdown right before half.
That was a fun
Moehrig will solve that problem for this defense. I 100% think his ability to come downfield, cut things off at the choke point, secure tackler, the speed to the ball. I get why they like him. I don't want to just dunk on the signing. I think you can maybe find that in other players that isn't $17 million. Like if I'm paying a safety $17 million, I want that plus consistent great coverage. I don't think you're getting the plus side of that. So maybe he's, only going to get better in that phase. Still a young player and all that, but it's a fine signing. We stopped giving grades to these. It's like a B- signing for me. That feels more like a C- because you just had Milton Williams and you lost him.
So I would also add on to this. Just this goes back to the Milton Williams part and the Trevon Moehrig is. I hope he stays healthy because I thought he was going to be a top, I'll say 40 pick at worst. I think he was going to be a first rounder, but his stock definitely fell, obviously because of a season-ending injury. But Kevin Winston from Penn State is a really, really good football player, and the season-ending injury was unfortunate. He had a really good start to the year against West Virginia in week 1 of the 2024 college season, but he was a guy at Penn State who missed, it was like 1 tackle over the course of 2 seasons. And when I'm sitting here looking at Trevon Moehrig, you can't guarantee that Kevin Winston's going to be there at 58 or 74, although I think he will be.
Yeah.
I would have much preferred that for, I don't know the exact cap hits for picks 58 and 74, but what are we talking? 2 million, 3 million per rather than 17?
Less probably.
Yeah, $15 million less for Kevin Winston than Trevon Moehrig. But again, I can't kill the Moehrig signing too much because it is an upgrade. It is an upgrade to the defense. They also, again, locked in Jaycee Horn for a couple years. So for 4 years. So, Sam Darnold, 110. Hold on. 3 for 110, 55 guaranteed to the Seahawks. Darnold is a Seahawk.
All right. Darnold's a Seahawk. There you have it.
Sorry. Chad is going crazy.
That's a big one. That is the one. So 3 for 110. It's about, it's almost exactly what you expected. About 30, 35 exactly, right?
Yes.
We said that when the last two games happened, it's like his contract just went from 45 to 35 was, I think, what everybody was saying after those two games. That's exactly what happened. Okay. I mean, yeah, we've talked about it a lot, I feel like, but we might as well hit on it again. Obviously, I think it's fascinating that you would go from Geno to Darnold when you had Geno on a 1-year deal. It's tough because we're not in the building. We don't know the relationships and everything. I would like to think I would play a little bit more hardball with Geno and try to create a little bit more flexibility. But it is kind of a lateral move in terms of quality of quarterback. We mentioned the interior offensive line problem being more of an issue for Sam Darnold. So I do think this means, okay, you got your quarterback, keep making phone calls, go get at least one offensive lineman, if not multiple. Especially because that's like the only need left on the team. I don't know. It doesn't all make perfect sense in all this, but it's fine. You've been a lateral move. You got younger at the position, and you're betting on the youth and hoping that you can get weeks 1 through 16 Sam Darnold and not 17 through playoffs Sam Darnold.
Hey. Week 17 was good, buddy. Don't forget that. That was the
okay.
Sweet...
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. We won our.
That was the Packers game.
Yes, we won our second.
That was
Super
the one
Bowl.
where I was like, he's back.
Second Super Bowl of the year. Second Super Bowl of the year, because the first Super Bowl was, of course, when we played you guys in Lambeau. So that was
correct.
That's and by the way, for any of Marcus's listeners that are also watching, I think I'm very fair about the Packers. I'm just busting Marcus's balls more than anything about the I can't talk like
us
this often.
Doing literally nothing today, as always, isn't busting my balls enough.
I can't talk like this often. The last time we swept you guys was 2017, so I can't.
Notice how I haven't even brought it up yet because it just doesn't faze me. Like I just know what's coming when free agency starts. Like last year was fun. It was like right out the gate. It's like whoa, like Josh Jacobs and Brandon McKinney. Not Brandon McKinney. That was one of the best men at my wedding who commented like 5 minutes ago. Shout out Brandon. I saw your super chat, by the way, like 5 minutes ago. You snuck into my mind there on the Xavier McKinney reference. But what are your kind of thoughts on Darnold?
So, I mean, it's obviously like exactly what you said with the weeks 1 through 17. The thing is everybody is so soured on week 18 in the wild card round, and I get it. I was more mad at those games than I've been in a long time. Just because it was, you're staring at the screen like, Sam, please throw the football. But he finished 10th in MVP voting for a reason. You don't accidentally finish 10th in MVP voting. You don't accidentally throw for 4,300 yards and 35 touchdowns and win 14 games and it was like 12 games over 100 passer rating in a 17 game season, and ultimately 16 games because obviously he wasn't throwing for 100 passer rating in that week 18 game in Detroit. But anyway, it was a fun year. He's a player that has all of the tools, and we saw him put it together for a full season. But Seattle, whether you go sign Will Fries, whether you trade for a guard, whatever the case may be, I'm not going to lie. I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think he's up for trade at all, but I would be curious just because of all of the moves that have happened. And again, I don't think he's available for trade at all, but I would just call and see, hey, what is Quentin Nelson's price for Indy, just to see, because again, I don't think he's for trade, but I'm saying what is, if I were a GM, by the way, I would call a lot of people all the time and be like, so what do you think about this guy? And just see.
Yeah. You're the one that calls the Jags about Trevor Lawrence. That's you.
Yeah, more like BTJ, what are we thinking?
Oh.
But and I had a couple super chats. Darnold behind that line is toast. He is. They'll definitely address the super chat. They'll address the interior offensive line. It's not like the Seahawks are oblivious to Sam's weaknesses as a player. It's not like they don't know that. And then I also had one more super chat. The Vikings have space to sign Aaron Rodgers. They do not. I'm declining the idea of that. They don't have the space to sign him. They might, but the money will be elsewhere.
Look. I know you hate him with a burning, fiery passion.
14 years, bro.
I would love it. I like not even like as a whole Packers fan, like Vikings fan thing. Like people think I hate the Vikings. I actually like the Vikings. I was born and raised in Minnesota. We historically are better than you. You're more of the baby brother. You don't bother me that much. I'm just saying. But I would love to see Rodgers come in for a year and give the
awesome.
Vikings a shot. I actually think he would play.
Awesome.
I understand, like, I'm Mr. Defends Rodgers to the death guy, but like, it's just my honest opinion. I think he would play lights out for a year. It doesn't have to derail the JJ McCarthy thing. He would go in like with full disclosure. Like, it's a 1-year deal. We're going to JJ next year. This is a set and done thing. You come in, you play well, you retire. Like, I don't know, man. We don't need to spend any more time on it because I don't think it's going to happen.
I'll say this. I'll just say this regarding Rodgers. Just this. The first 10 minutes, I would have to like undo like 14 years of this guy just tormenting me. But then after that, I'd be like, dude, like Hall of Fame, 4-time MVP, multiple 40 passing touchdown seasons. Trust me, in like a 20-minute span, I'd do a 180. I would 100% do a 180. So
I got some super chats.
Go ahead.
Catch up on. By the way, how much longer do you want to go? Because this has been phenomenal. I got more time in me, but I know you said you got some content to make.
Yeah, I'm going to get off here in a minute. I'm going to get off here in a minute. So a couple minutes.
Okay. Well, I can wait till you leave and then do my super chats.
Yeah. So okay, cool.
Yeah. Maybe just if we have any other news to catch up on, and then we can.
The big one. I'm glad that we got a quarterback. I'm really glad that we got a quarterback.
Yes. That's not a bad stopping point there.
That's actually I think I am gonna stop here, to be honest with you.
Okay. What's the video you're going to record? Get a little plug in.
It is 4 NFL players entering a now or never season in 2025. Okay. And we discussed.
I love it.
We discussed one of the players. I mean, this is a 2.5-hour stream, so it's a long time. But we discussed one of the players in the stream today. So I'll just say that.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you, obviously, for joining us. And
wait, hold on. I have a super chat that I did not get. Hold on, I just want to get it.
Okay.
It was from, I gotta find it. Andrew said something. Sorry. Andrew said, sorry. It was with the Eagles losing Rodgers and a bunch of defensive linemen. Would Jahdae Barrett or Donovan Ezra-Rocco be a better pickup day one? Both probably require a trade up. I am a fan of Donovan Ezra-Rocco. I'm actually a fan of both players, but I'm a huge Donovan Ezra-Rocco guy. So if you could have Ezra-Rocco in a similar role, I actually think his comp would honestly be like Haason Reddick. I love Donovan Ezra-Rocco's game. And if you could have that type of player for not just one season, but like 4 or 5 years and potentially develop him, I would love Donovan Ezra-Rocco on the Eagles more than a lot of people would probably like to admit. Like, I think he would be potential defensive rookie of the year. I know that's probably a bold take, but I think the situation would be absolutely perfect for him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Barron's probably wishful thinking.
Right. I think he's going top 12. Right.
But yeah, corner has at least emerged as a spot for them that they could use, because they did release Darius Slay as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they get Slay back for cheap. So, they did that a couple years ago with like Fletcher Cox. They released him and then brought him back. But yeah, corner or edge, or then interior line.
The Darnold deal was actually changed. It's 3 for $100 rather than 3 for $110. So that's even better. It's even better for the Seahawks. And
even
then
better.
The last one was you mentioned it earlier. I will leave on this. Why this is from my ex-wife. Good username. Why do you good? Anyway, I heard something, but anyway, the question was, why do my cards hate free agency? That was the question, and I share the frustration. I do share the frustration.
I do too. I share it. Yep.
But I will catch everyone later. Marcus, good collaborating. Yeah. Good collaborating.
Oh, this was super fun.
So yeah, this was hopefully everybody enjoyed, and you guys can continue to listen to Marcus yap. So I will catch you guys, and until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.
Okay, now the question is, how does this work? I think I do that. I can remove Garrett. See ya. And we should be rolling. All right. So my goal for the rest of this stream here is to be all caught up on moves and super chats. And then I am also going to slowly wrap things up here. A couple of you guys are saying Slay is a Steeler. So that makes sense. I don't know if that just happened or if that already happened, but maybe we'll circle back to that in a second. But I got to talk about Poona Ford because that happened a little while ago, and we've just been having stuff to talk about here. But yeah, Poona Ford had a monster season for the Chargers, just stayed home with the other home team going to the Rams. It's a tough one for the Chargers, man. Like, they are just kind of staying put. There's more time, but it's starting to enter kind of panic mode if you're a Chargers fan. For the Rams, this was something I talked about. I don't even remember if it was Studs and Duds or the podcast we did a couple days ago, but they lost their nose tackle in. This is why I need Garrett here, because my name recall 2.5 hours into a show gets rough. But Bobby Brown is out of here. And that's a huge thing that the Rams need, is a nose tackle, because they have all these undersized athlete types, Kobe Turner, Fisk, even down the depth chart, Tyler Davis, Dejuan Johnson, like Larry Murchison. Like, these are all like 290-pound D tackles that get moved around in the run game. So if they want to stop the run, especially with bad linebackers, which they have, with all due respect to Omar Speights, they need someone that can take on double teams and stop the run. And Poona Ford is like really good at that. I'm not going to say he's perfect at it. He's like not your prototype nose tackle, but yeah, I mean, that D, it works. That D line is just like full of different body types, good athletes. It's fun. The Rams are really going for it, man. They're having a really nice offseason. So fantastic signing of Poona Ford. I think Larry Ogunjobi was released by Pittsburgh. That's not horribly surprising. We the free Keanu Benton narrative is in full force. Eric Murray just signed a 3-year, $22 million deal with the Jaguars. So the Jaguars, Eric Murray is a safety from Houston, interdivision signing there. But Eric Murray actually had a pretty good year for Houston this year. So 3 years, $22 million. Not a bad deal for an experienced safety to kind of round out that group. I would expect a Darnell Savage release pretty soon. So you bring in some really good kind of nickel assistance, or at least, short to intermediate assistance between Eric Murray and Jourdan Lewis. That's those are some good reinforcements. And they didn't have to pay a absolute bazillion dollars to get that either. 6.5 on Eric Murray and 10 on Jourdan Lewis. Like, those are pretty nice deals, frankly. So I think that gets us all caught up on the signings. I'm just trying to refresh my account here. Yeah, so I think we're all caught up on signings. But let's catch up on Super Chats, and then if no signings happen, I will be on my way. But scrolling up here, because we're behind. So I think the last one we had here was from Red Zone Rants. Paulson Adebo to the Giants. How do we feel? So we did cover him earlier in the show. I don't remember exactly when that was, but I mean, I just love it. I'm a big Paulson Adebo fan. He's got to recover from the injury, but they obviously need cornerback help. They really don't have any outside starters. Drew Phillips was great coming in, playing slot. Deonte Banks heading into year 3, huge question mark. Cordell Flott, no longer Cordell Slot. He kicked outside, was all right, but huge need. Big fan of Paulson Adebo. Whatever the price was, I don't think it's likely that they overpaid Paulson Adebo. So I really like that for the Giants. From Azza, he says, stoked to upset you guys. This was when Garrett was here. But as a Lions fan, I'm stoked to get DJ Reed and for less than Carlton Davis. Yeah. That signing was annoying. DJ Reed. You also, fun fact, the Lions now have DJ Reed and DJ Reader. That's going to be fun. But yeah, DJ Reed's going to be a hell of a player for the Lions. And it's just an A+ signing. Like, DJ Reed's awesome. So congrats to you Lions fans for having a great front office. I'm super happy for you guys. From Cold Takes, I can't even read the whole nickname there, but Cold Takes. If you were the GM of my Brownies, what's your plan? You don't really have much wiggle room. They don't have a whole lot of cap space. I would bring in Kirk Cousins. I think that's kind of your best bet that you can make right now. Hope Cam Ward's there at number 2. Kirk Cousins, the connection with Kevin Stefanski, played with him for a couple years in Minnesota. If his arm, Kirk's pretty adamant that he can still play. If his arm and a year removed from the Achilles, if he can get some of his physical abilities back, he did have some good games last year. He theoretically would be willing to go there for like a 1-year, $1 million deal, like what Russ did last year, because the Falcons are paying him this year and next year and probably the year after that. So that's probably mostly what the Browns are able to do. They just don't have the cap wiggle room. Now, they may have opened some of that up with the Myles Garrett restructure, but they've been aggressive. They are paying now what they were aggressive to acquire the last couple of years. And it's just, unfortunately, you just kind of gotta wheedle your way into good coaching and quality quarterback play on the cheap. And that's a tough world to live in. But from Alex Tracy, Alex, thank you for stopping in. Do you think Stanley re-signing is best case scenario? And do you think the Ravens should trade up in the draft? So, yeah, I think getting Stan, especially given that where the tackle market is at, you get Ronnie Stanley back. Dan Moore just got $20 million, the same that Stanley got. So even if you have some concerns about Stanley's injury history and if he's regressing, he's all of a sudden a bargain at $20 million. So that was definitely best case scenario that he just wanted to stay and lock it up before it. Cause dude, he might've gotten $30 million in this market. So definitely best case that he wanted to stay there and really go for it. Whoa, Justin Fields to the Jets. Couple people saying that in the chat. Is that right? Hold on. Holy 2 years, 40 million, 30 guaranteed. If that's what it takes. I talked about this on the podcast about Fields and the Jets feeling like that was going to happen. I can't explain the money. He's just not worth that. He's not. He is a bridge option. It's going to be fun. Jets fans are going to have a great time with it. Maybe he improves. I put that maybe at a pretty low margin. But I'm not going to sit here as low as I am on Justin Fields. I'm not going to should I text Garrett and say, you want to hop back in and talk? No, he's recording a video. But as low as I am on Justin Fields and as much as I'm betting against him getting better, I get it for the Jets. I disagree with the money. 2-year deal. If he sucks, you get out of it in a year and you stomach even more cap hit. It's fine. I like the idea of building a run-heavy offense and just run the ball, play defense, culture, toughness. Garrett just texted me. He's commenting. He said he's commenting in the chat. I don't know where. I don't see it. I'm trying to. Oh, there he is. Oh, man. Yeah, I understand the plan here. Again, the money's a lot. We'll see. We'll just have to evaluate him with an open mind. He's just got to become a better passer. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And he's had multiple opportunities to show that development, and he hasn't so far. I certainly would not bet on that happening. I view him as a bridge quarterback. This to me is actually much closer to the Gardner Minshew contract last year, where it was 2 years, $30 million or something like that. It's a little bit more expensive because of the theoretical upside and the market increase and the cap space and all that. But that's basically what this is the Gardner Minshew deal, bridge quarterback with a little bit more theoretical upside on top of it. And I think that's exactly where the Jets are at in their window. So it makes sense. Probably about as of an optimistic spin as you're going to get on it from me. I just saw the flash in the comments says, bro, I have Garrett Wilson in Dynasty. Why? Actually, being Justin Fields' number 1 wide receiver is a pretty good deal because it's the only player he's going to throw to. So I wouldn't panic yet. The losers are everybody else trying to catch passes in that offense. But glad that broke. We do have a couple other ones here. So Darius Slay did sign a contract with Pittsburgh. I like it for Pitt, right? Like, stays in state. They needed another 2 corner. Great mentor for Porter. I've been talking about Pittsburgh needing another corner for a while now. So the last couple of days at least. So that makes sense. Can't imagine he's too expensive. Still played well last year. So I love that for Pitt. And then this one is bizarre. Samaje Perine, 3-year, $22 million contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That one is perplexing. I'm stumped. I'm stumped on that. Obviously, it's not going to derail the organization or anything here, but you got Rachaad White in the building, Bucky Irving and what he did last year, the flashes you saw from our Syracuse guy, name's escaping me, undrafted free agent, showed good, looked good. Why would you pay any money to Samaje Perine to get any snaps in that room? I just don't like it. Like, not even that, like, they're wasting money or anything like that, though they don't have a lot of cap space, and that money's got to go somewhere. But I just feel like any snaps you're taking away, whether you're giving them the ball or putting him in as a third down back, which is what Samaje Perine's really been good at, is as a pass blocker and dump down guy. I don't know, man. That one's just okay. All right. It's fake. Good one. Whoever put that one out, good one. You got me to talk about a signing that would have made just absolutely no sense. That's just wild. Let's move on. Thank you, chat, for stopping me from going any further. But Aaron Wilson broke that one. Okay. Thanks for nothing, Aaron Wilson. And I lost my NFL transactions page because I opened Samaje Perine's thing, and now it's not loading. Man, the internet is struggling today. I don't know what's going on. Is your guys' internet struggling today too? Like, what the heck? So we got Darius Slay, Perine's fake, Fields to the Jets. The chat was saying Andrew Bynum to the Colts. I need to see the details on that one. I'm curious what Bynum got. I'm seeing 4 for 60 in the chat. It's a little rich for me. It sounds about right though. I don't know. Julian Blackman, Cam Bynum, whatever. Both former cornerbacks moving to safety. Blackman played a lot of slot corner in college, but I mean, that if I'm a Colts fan, my reaction to that is really that's where we're going to spend money, is on like a super mid safety. I don't know. Like, okay, I'm not going to say it's a bad signing. That's where the safety market is. They needed a safety very clearly. He's a sound player. For Luanarumo, he does really value the versatility aspect. Guys that can play man, can play free safety, strong safety, everything. Cam Bynum can do a little bit of everything, but does nothing at like I would even say he doesn't even really do anything at like a good level. I think he's just like very solid, above average across the board. I would say ball skills, like if the ball's in his area, good. Like he's good at coming down with picks, but I don't know. It's like a C+ signing, kind of like whatever. All right, we should be all caught up on. Man, they just keep coming in. Now someone's saying Dio Odeingbo to the Bears. That makes sense. I mean, they've been wanting a penetrating 3 technique for a long time, and they need pass rush help. So I don't think he'll be cheap. If that is true, I don't want to spend too much time on it because we've seen a lot of false reports here. But if Dio did sign with the Bears, I do really like that. I do want to catch up on our super chats here. So Matty Ice, any hope for my Colts to fill any holes in free agency? Well, there you go, Matty Ice. You get Cameron Bynum. Congrats on that one. There's hope that you filled holes. At least we can say that. I don't know. From Runs with Feathers, doesn't matter now, but plausibility of a yeah, I mean, he has plausibility of Titans getting Myles Garrett straight up for number 1 overall. Obviously, like you said, doesn't matter now, but I think you mean like, would it have been on the table? I don't think so. Like, well, I don't think the Titans would do that either. Like, I think the Titans would probably rather just take Abdul Carter, who's going to be a lot cheaper and, obviously way younger, and the Titans aren't in this win now window. So yeah, that one would be pretty out there for me. From YJL, do you think Nico Collins has a good chance of firmly entering the top 5 wide receivers over guys like Tyreek and CeeDee Lamb with a fully healthy season? So yeah, he's like encroaching on top 5 wide receiver for sure, right? You've got Justin Jefferson, you've got my brain's starting to turn into mush, so I just wanted to pull up a list just to make sure I'm not forgetting anybody. But obviously, Jamar Chase is in there. Now I'm like freezing as my internet freezes trying to pull up a list. But Jefferson, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown. Those I think are a clear top 3 right now. And then beyond that, I think the conversation gets interesting. You got, why do I feel like I'm forgetting someone? Jefferson, Chase, AJ Brown. I don't know. I guess, yeah, CD 4. And then Nico 5. Like, is he already there? Why? I mean, is it because Tyreek Hill fell off so fast and Devontae Adams fell off? Like, not fell off, but regressed. Like, is that why it doesn't feel right to me? Because I feel like that's probably your top 5 right there in that order. Jefferson, Chase, Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Nico Collins. I think that's it. Yeah, I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown, you could make the argument for it. Just kind of depends, obviously a different conversation with him being the slot guy. But personally, I think I would put Nico over St. Brown, but it's fair. If you have, I mean, St. Brown's probably 6 for me on that list. It's St. Brown and Nico. So, yeah, I mean, he needs to be in that conversation. That's for damn sure. Yeah, and of course, Micah says Alan Lazard, for sure. Super chat from Dave and Poe. I don't know where the Jags can go at wide receiver. Seems like all the good options are already gone besides Kupp. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's not a deep wide receiver pool. You could make a call for like Stephon Diggs maybe. But I do like Kupp. I think Kupp actually fits really well. You've got your explosive aspect already in Brian Thomas. Kupp and Liam Cohen are familiar. I like it. I do. I don't think it's a bad option by any stretch of the imagination. So at least there's something out there that makes sense. From Ash, the Bengals right now feel like they're kind of turning into what the Saints were for a while, where Breeze was absolutely insane, but their defense was awful. So they just kept winning 7-9 games. Just crazy. Yeah, it's a good comparison. The Saints definitely had some years there where the defense was so bad. I know this is going to be unpopular, but I would argue that Burrow is better than Breeze. Like, I don't know. I don't need to get too far down that, but I don't know. You guys can let me know what you think about that one, but there is a close comp there for sure, and it just is so frustrating as a Bengals fan, because that's one of those things where it's like, how does that get better? Does it ever get better when it's the ownership? That's like kind of the ultimate stab in the back. Vibes asks if we've seen film on Solomon Craig, second best safety in the draft class, but projected a UDFA. I have not. I'll keep an eye out for your boy Solomon Craig. From Cheesehead, who's left that you'd like to see the Packers sign? At this point, Charvarius Ward would be very high on my list for the Packers. I think Nate Hobbs would be very high on my list for the Packers. Cornerback is definitely a position. I think, I can't believe I'm even saying it, but Eric Stokes, like, if he's cheap, bring him back. It's frustrating. They just beat to their own drum. Not a big surprise that they're not doing much today. I didn't really wake up expecting the Packers to do too much, especially with, Devontae not going there. But those would be my top two guys at corner. There's really, I think they should sign a wide receiver. Who I would honestly sign is Darius Slayton. I don't think Darius Slayton's absolutely terrible. I think he's a good vertical threat. I think Christian Watson is not going to play next year. And like when the Packers have had Christian Watson on the field, they use him so well, it opens up the whole field. I think Darius Slayton is a replacement for Christian Watson, who I just don't know is ever going to play a game for the Packers again. I know it's hard to hear that, but he tore his ACL week 18 and he already misses countless games. So I would say Darius Slayton or a corner for the Packers. We've got Brandon, who we shouted out with the super chat. Thank you, Brandon. See you at basketball tonight, Brandon? Maybe. But Colt chimed in when the Chargers lost Poona Ford. Frustrated by that. Yes, I would share your frustrations. Would be interesting if the Chargers just swapped defensive tackles with the Rams in LA and they actually went out and signed Bobby Brown, who would be a good fit for them. But the Chargers definitely got to start spending some money here. Like, the value might not always be perfect in the free agency market, but they got to get at least a signing on the board here. But JD asked, love the offseason so far, but the idea of Landry starting over who we already have is terrifying, arguably makes the defense worse. I agree. I agree with you. I've kind of beaten my thoughts on the Harold Landry signing into the dirt. I just couldn't believe it. He is the definition of a guy that was an obvious release for the Titans. When they said they were shopping him, I was like, why even waste your time? Like, no one's taking on that contract. And then the Patriots gave him that contract. Gave him a worse version probably of that contract. But I would have either let someone else pay him or wait to see if anybody did pay him. And if nobody did, then you come back in a few weeks and say, all right, we'll bring you back to play with your old coach for 1 year, $4 million. I don't get it. I don't get it. He can't rush the passer anymore. And he's an undersized run defender. He's good at defending the run, but the people calling him an elite run defender, that ain't Harold Landry. He's a good run defender for his size. From Shea, Miami will find, mark my words, Miami will find a veteran to overpay that we don't need. Maybe, maybe not. Hey, Javon Holland has not been paid yet. That is interesting. He, to me, is the best overall player out there on the market. That is definitely someone to keep an eye on out there. Man, you guys are just awesome with the super chats, by the way. Just awesome. I'm going to take a pause from that and talk about Dio again. So just for a second, Dio was 3 years, 48, according to the chat. Not surprising. Had a good year last year. Like I said, they need pass rush from wherever it comes from. And Dio's nice because he can play the edge, he can play inside. No shocker that Dennis Allen loves him. He's his Cam Jourdan. I mean, he plays the edge on early down. I actually really like that. Can come inside, pause, but he can rush inside and make an impact. It's a good deal. It's a good, you got to pay up for a guy like that on the market, but it's not some egregious overpay. It's more than I'd like to pay him, but not by, I view him as like a $12 million player. You give him 16 to get him in the building. That checks out for me. That's a great scheme fit. So really like it. But back to Shay's super chat for a second, saying Miami's going to find a veteran to overpay. I don't know that that's going to happen, because if they were going to overpay someone, go get Javon Holland, like keep him in the building. And the fact that they didn't get that done tells me their cap situation is not pretty. And that makes sense because they've paid a lot of guys. So I don't know that it's true that Miami will find a way to overpay someone. But from Green Zone, Seahawks version of rebuilding on the fly is hilarious. Go Broncos. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those deals with the Darnold to Seattle. It's one of those deals where it's like, it's interesting. It's not really what I would do. I don't think it's a complete disaster. It's just kind of like, I don't fully understand it. But if Gino was like adamant, like, I need a contract extension, I understand giving it to the 27-year-old as opposed to the older one, even though I think Gino is a higher level projection as a quarterback than Sam Darnold. Honestly, if they go get some interior offensive linemen, I'm fine with the Darnold signing, but they got to take care of that, or it could be a disaster. But cold takes, I think you probably chime back in here because you were asking me about Cleveland in your first super chat, right? I'm like scrolling back up and it's slow to scroll. Yeah. So I think I answered your question earlier, cold takes, about signing Kirk Cousins for the Browns, making a lot of sense because they just don't have the money to really make a move for it. And, maybe they just take Shedeur. I obviously would not do that. But, yeah, I'm going to go Kirk Cousins for Cleveland. From Austin Ash, why do the Packers not like winning championships? I ask myself that every single day. Echo again. Thank you, Echo. You've been awesome today. I really appreciate the support. Brassy has another chat coming up too. You guys have been coming in real solid today, but Bynum to the Colts to presumably play free safety. So there is no real like true free safety in Anarumo's defense. He is a true hybrid system. He's gonna move these guys up and down a ton. He's one of those interchangeable safety above all mentality. And again, Bynum, every box is checked for him. He's just kind of capped in every category. He's just a fine, solid player. He fits the system. So I see what they were looking for in him. It's just more than I want to pay that player at that position. But Brassy says AJ is not better than CD. Get out with that. Jamar, JJ, CD are tier 1. Then the rest are goobers. Can be grouped. Amon-Ra is weak. I didn't say. Oh, you're saying CD is better than AJ Brown? No, he's not. I mean, he's more diverse, like in terms of slot flexibility, but I don't get why the pushback on AJ Brown. Like, AJ Brown is the best ball winner in the NFL. He's fast. He's 230 pounds. He's awesome after the catch. I don't get it. He produces. He makes unbelievable catches for Jalen Hurts. Like, I don't know. I consistently see AJ Brown push back, and I just don't get it. Like, if you wanted to rank CD Lamb above AJ Brown, that's fine. But I don't understand, like, and like earlier in this season when I ranked AJ Brown over Jamar Chase, like ever so slightly, like in the same tier, like neck and neck, it was like I was getting just put on blast for it. And I'm just like, you guys, I get you got your guys and all that, but what is not to like about AJ Brown? I just don't understand. He's an elite alpha receiver, like tier 1 all the way through. From Solid J Ken, who is left for the Panthers to bounce back and put on the D line? Damn you, Williams, but dude making 12 mil more than Derek Brown. No thanks. I still would have liked to have him in there. It's just that's what the open market will do. Who's left for the Panthers to get? It's running pretty dry. I mean, if you wanted a similar archetype that's just not nearly as good of a player, Tershawn Wharton would fit the same idea of a Milton Williams. So that would be a name. It's tough. I mean, there's just not a lot of, it's just not a great D line. You know, maybe Tyre Tart. Just not a lot of big names out there for interior D line. Grady Jarrett would actually be good. It just got cut today by the Falcons. There's a few names for you for the Panthers, for our Panthers. From JCOH TV, what do we think of the Pats moves so far? What do you think of the Pats moves, and who do you think they get at wide receiver? Thank you for paving the way and giving you the confidence to make content. You got it, dude. Keep grinding. You got this. But we were talking about, collecting all these Pats moves together, probably third. I wish there was a way for AI to like generate timestamps. I don't know if any of you, if anybody goes through, because this stream's going to end. I'm actually going to send out an offer to you guys right now before I answer JCOH's question here. But if anybody wants to go through and do it right, obviously, but give me timestamps on everything we talked about today, I will pay you $50 PayPal. But it's got to be good. It's got to be done right. But if you want to do it, you want to make $50 today, first come, first serve. Just tag me in on Twitter. That's probably the best way to do it. Tag me in on Twitter that you did it. Or post it in the comments, like whatever. I'll try and see it. I would say I'll be checking the comments from this VOD, and I will be checking my notifications on Twitter. So I should see it between those two things. But if you do it, I got a $50 PayPal offer for you to timestamp all this stuff. Because we really did kind of cover it all between me and Garrett today. Jan Grimm, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Just supporting the channel, man. No comment, but love the support. That's the best right there. From Seth. Feels like Washington drank a little stupid juice and overpaid Kinlaw. Hope Quinn saw something we all haven't, but holy crap, I don't feel good. So I was a little bit higher on that than I think was expected. Garrett certainly pushed back on it. And I understand he's not a good run defender. He's been a first-round bust. He's been a capable number 2 penetrating pass rushing D tackle for 2 years now. So I do think it fits Dan Quinn's defense. He needs guys that can get upfield, be penetrators for stunts and, disrupt the pocket. He can do it. I think he will have effectiveness for the defense. And when you have a good schemer like Dan Quinn, you trust a little. It's more than I'd like to pay him, but I was a little bit higher on that move, especially when the Commanders have just just an endless pit of cap space right now. The weird thing was what happened with Jonathan Allen, for sure, because Jonathan Allen's just a better player than Kinlaw, no doubt. Purpose over pleasure says options for the Titans. Well, the Titans did make a huge splash bringing in Dan Moore. So that was big. You know, the D-line market just, there's not a ton out there. I do think Josh Sweat very much could be in play for them. Like, they got money. I think Josh Sweat would make a lot of sense in Tennessee. They need edge help, obviously. So I would throw that name out for them. I think if they spend money, it would be on the edge, and maybe they go to the wide receiver market, but there's just not a lot of names there. From Brassy again, Brassy, you are awesome. Really appreciate the support here today. I think this is either your third or fourth super chat, so very kind. Thank you. Because 75. Oh, this is back to the AJ Brown commentary. We're doubling back. Okay. He says, this is in response to me saying what's not to like about AJ Brown. 75% of his game is built off volume targets and getting away with egregious OPI that even most other elite receivers wouldn't. Look, the OPI thing, you're not wrong, but that's how the NFL works. I don't understand what you're saying about 75% of his game being built off of volume targets. I mean, CeeDee Lamb led the NFL in targets last year, so I don't understand why that's a knock on him over CD. But again, like, I don't think we're that far off on these guys. You just think CD's better, but like, we're talking about a 95 versus 94, if you will. And they're both tier 1 guys, which you admitted. So again, if you think CeeDee Lamb's better because he can do more stuff, I think that's a fair point. I just think you're a little low on the fact that AJ Brown does stuff that pretty much nobody else in the league does right now. I mean, he's like a faster Mike Evans, basically. It just kicked me out of my chat. 1 second. We are almost caught up here. From Aiden, do the Falcons have enough cap flexibility for a Hendrickson trade, then extension? If not, what do they do at edge? I think they could probably really move some money around and make it work. I know they released Grady Jarrett today. That probably cleared up a pretty hefty sum of cash. They probably have the money for it. And a second-round pick would probably get them. So I don't hate that. Otherwise, like, Josh Sweat's kind of the one big name. Otherwise, you're talking about those bargain bin signings that I talked about on the podcast a couple days ago. Guys like Josh Uche, Malcolm Kuntz, Caleb Von Chason. They got to improve the pass rush one way or another next year. I do still think that they drafted a bunch of dudes on the D-line last year, and they basically were all unavailable for them. Coaching and development at some point is going to have to kick in with this defensive line. But I do think making a signing or two definitely makes sense. But I would say just like go down the board of D-line and edge players of available free agents. And for the most part, I would say like, yeah, go try to make it happen. Try to get them in on something that isn't an egregious overpay. But Jan Grimm, again, thank you for the super chat. This time with a question. I think the first time Jan came in just with the good old support with no commentary. But Jan asks, what do you think of the Bills' new contracts? I think Allen, Shakir, Bernard are okay. What do you think about Russo's new contract? He's loved by PFF, but I don't know. Shout out from the Czech Republic. Yes, shout out. Blows my mind. We got people out in Czech Republic chiming in 3 hours in on a free agent live stream. The international passion for the NFL. Shout out to you international fans Jan included. But so the Bills brought in Allen. Is in Josh Allen? Did they reworked Allen's deal, gave him more money? I'm assuming. I actually missed that. I'm assuming that's what you mean by Allen. Yeah, Shakir, pay him whatever you had to. He's a beast. Terrell Bernard, I think I'm lower on Terrell Bernard, but what they got him back for was like 3 years, like $36 million. I just think that's okay for Terrell Bernard. He's an instinctive coverage player. They obviously love his presence in the locker room. That counts for something. His communication in that defense is valued. I think he misses too many tackles and is very overrated by Bills fans, but it's not like you had to pay a crazy amount. So I think the Bernard contract was fine. Yeah, Rousseau getting like $20 million a year, right? I did see that. Greg Rousseau. I don't know if this is going to load, but the internet has just been, luckily the connection's been pretty good on the stream, I think, but like a lot of websites are not working great today. Spotrac, PFF, Twitter, the NFL world is constantly refreshing. I'm not going to get the details on Rousseau, but he's seeing if I can at least pull up his PFF profile, because I at least want to see. You mentioned, how PFF loves him, so I just want to pull this up. Anyway, yeah, Greg Rousseau, I feel like he has kind of stalled out in terms of development. The last 2.5 years, he's been like a really good number 2. He's a great run defender. His length does just kind of cause problems. He's definitely not a guy you wanted to let out the building. If you're the Bills, I still think they need to find more guys, but letting him go just creates another issue. And he's a good player. Keeping him, he's going to be cheaper than what Josh Sweat probably gets. So I definitely think he's worth bringing back. I don't know. Sorry, I don't have much of an opinion on the Bills deals. They're in a tough spot where they got to pay to keep their own, but they're still kind of outgunned right now on defense and don't have a ton of other money to make huge upgrades. So they're in a rough spot trying to get that defense where they need it to be. But Dylan says Palmer, Diami, and Hufanga signed. Palmer being Josh Palmer. So, with the Bills. Well, let's talk about that. We just talked about the Bills. 3 years, $36 million for Josh Palmer. Why? I'm the hey, Josh Sweat to the Cardinals. They did something, Cardinals fans. We did it. It was actually a little bit less than Rousseau, though. 4 years, $76 million, a little bit below Rousseau. We're at a fork in the road. It makes sense to talk about both these things right now. Let me wrap up on Josh Palmer. I don't get it. I don't get it. He's fine, but you've got enough mid-wide receivers. You have Josh Allen at quarterback. You drafted Keon Coleman in the first round. I don't like that allocation of resources. I just don't. I don't know, man. I'm just not a big Josh Palmer guy. But let's just bring Mac Hollins back. Better run blocker, fun locker room presence, cheaper, bigger, does the same. I don't know, man. Bills front office, just every 3 moves they make, I'm just super meh on. But yeah, Josh Sweat to the Cardinals. I mean, there's almost nothing to say because this is just such a no-brainer. We've been asking for something like this for 2 years. He's reunited with Jonathan Gannon. It's just perfect. It is perfect. They needed a guy. They did exactly what they should have done. They brought back Browning. So you got now 4 guys in that edge group that you like. You got Sweat number 1. Now, ideally, Sweat would be a 2, and you have an elite guy, but at least you're getting closer to a NFL quality defensive line there. But you got Sweat's going to be your 1. Zaven Collins is just a nice, like, really good run defender. He's great for the blitzes that they run because he's probably the best coverage edge player in the league. He's been okay as a rusher. So him as a 2 is like fine-ish. You got Ajalari coming back from the injury, who they were excited about, and he got hurt. And then, of course, they brought Baron Browning back. I can work with that. And then on the interior, you're hoping Darius Robinson can take a step. They have their 2 free agent signings from last year in Bilal Nichols and Jones. Who was it? DJ Jones? Who was the anyway, there's another veteran defensive tackle. Both those guys like basically didn't play, injuries related last year. So they're like 7 deep on the D line, and we know that's what Jonathan Gannon wants to do. He wants a rotation. So I like they've kind of steadily arrived at this point. A+ signing for the Cardinals, and frankly, that money is good. I don't know that I would have been like super excited in a weaker edge market to pay Josh Sweat like $25 million a year. I think he is a number 2. He's not a number 1, and I wouldn't want to give him number 1 money just because he's on the open market. And $18 million a year, that plays, man. So good on the Cardinals. That's one of the best overall signings of the day. So fantastic move there. But let's talk about Talanoa Hufanga going to the Broncos. $45 million, 3 years, $45 million. Man's got to stay healthy. That's all I'm going to say. I like putting him in that defense. That dude's a maniac. He's got great ball skills. He loves to hit. He's an up and down coverage player, but I think what they did with Brandon Jones last year, this is like getting another guy like that who, had some up and down coverage tape, but got much better under Vance Joseph's defense. So he'll be a good blitzer for them. I love the fit. They needed another safety. We called that on the free agent podcast yesterday, having them go for who do we have them signing? We had them getting Holland at about this price point. So same idea. It's just Hufanga's got to stay healthy. He's got to stay healthy. That's really all this comes down to. Risky signing because he's missed so much time and he plays so recklessly that I think he gets himself hurt sometimes. But hard to complain. He's a fun player. So that should catch us up. Thank you, by the way, Tala. Justin Jones is the other defensive tackle for the Cardinals that I was trying to think of, not DJ Jones. So you did say Diami signed, Dylan. I missed that. Is that true? Diami Brown? Did he get a deal? I didn't see that. I got to look this up because Diami Brown's my dude. Jags signed Diami Brown. Hell yeah. I love that signing. Dude, yes, Diami Brown. I love that move. Good move for the young. I like what the Jags front office is doing. The news group coming in. Not making any egregious signings here. A 1-year, $10 million deal for Diami Brown, who kind of broke out late. Always dealt with horrible quarterback play. Huge fan of him as a number 2. The fun thing about this, too, my pro comp on Diami Brown coming out, the high-end comp was Chris Godwin. You've now got the offense, Liam Cohen's offense coming in. They have that role. Catch tunnel screens, work the sidelines if you need him to. A+ signing. Love that. Fantasy target, you guys. Diami Brown, because Brian Thomas Jr. is going to draw a lot of attention next year. They've got a quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. Can we get Gabe Davis all the fucking way out of here, please? Can we just have they cut Gabe Davis yet? Because the second Gabe Davis is no longer in the picture here, you have a clean runway for Diami Brown as wide receiver too. Love that signing. And I like the DB signings for them too. But a couple more super chats here from Echo again. Thank you, Echo. $20 super chat. My man, I appreciate you so much. Hope you know that. But the safety, with safety addressed, I'm full bore back on Tyler Warren to the Colts at 14. I like it. I actually just did Tyler Warren's eval this morning. Really, really fun player. My pro comp, I had just a pro comp range on him. The low end was Hunter Henry, like worst case scenario, Hunter Henry. Best case scenario, Rob Gronkowski. Mid-range scenario, Dallas Goedert. Like that's the type of player you're talking about there. I wouldn't be stunned though if Dallas Goedert to the Colts could be in play because of the Shane Steichen connection. And I think Goddard had his best years with Steichen, or at least some of his best years. So wouldn't be stunned, but I do like it. Thanks again, Echo. I appreciate you. Frosty, just wanted to hear your thoughts on Cam Bynum. Haven't seen much tape on him, to be honest. We've hit on Bynum now twice in like the last 45 minutes, so I can't spend too much time on it. But flexible, solid player, not really great at anything, but Lou Anarumo values that hybridness to his defense, the ability to kind of do a little bit of everything with their safeties. And he definitely fits that mold. It's more than I'd like to pay him, but he's fine. So, you guys, super chats were unbelievable. We're all caught up. We stayed here long enough to get Josh Sweat convo in there, Justin Fields convo in there, the biggest signing of the day, Diami Brown conversation in there. I think we are going to call it there. We've been live for 3.5 hours at this point, 3 hours, 15 minutes. If you heard my offer on putting together timestamps, it's going to be a first come, first serve offer there. $50 if you can properly timestamp everything we talked about here today. You got it. I will PayPal you $50. I do apologize if someone puts in work and I already got someone. I can't pay everybody $50 for putting down timestamps. But first come, first serve on that one, if anybody wants to take me up on it. But we're going to call it there. Nobody else put in a super chat. I'm going to end this thing in like 10 seconds. Legion asking about my thoughts on Eric Murray signing. We did talk about it earlier. It's a good, solid signing. He's an upgrade from Darnell Savage. He had a nice year last year. Nothing too crazy. Brassy. You know what? I'm opening the opportunity for more super chats here, but I did have a thought. This is I don't know why I'm doing this right now, but I had a thought today, and your comment is like spot on with this thought. But again, Brassy says Lamar, Josh, and Joe are better than most QBs in the Hall of Fame. I just had kind of a football general thought about the idea of quarterback development stacking by generation. This idea that all of these little subtle things that quarterbacks do, whether it's the Rodgers hard snap that draws guys offside, or the different schematic evolutions, or the idea of a back shoulder fade, or putting the ball in your left hand and throwing a pass on your check down, like all of the millions and millions of subtle football things. This idea of generational learning, stacking for quarterbacks, the idea that Joe Marino and John Elway, and going even further back to like Johnny Unitas, they had to discover things for the first time. And there is a compounding addition by generation. And that's why I do agree that Lamar, Josh, Joe, they are better than most of the quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame. They are better quarterbacks than pretty much anybody in the Hall of Fame. And I fully agree with that. I said Joe Marino, Dan Marino. But anyway, it was just a thought I had today that relates to what you just commented. But I literally said Joe Marino. Let's go. It's time to log off when you're out here saying Joe Marino in the chat. But thank you guys. Excellent stream. Thank you to Garrett for joining us for the first 2 hours as well. Anytime we get a chance to collab there, you got to love it. But it is time, you guys. I am going to be on my way out of here. I'm going to upload this whole thing, by the way, you guys, on the Fully Inflated Football podcast as soon as possible. It's, I think, going to be very digestible to listen back to this thing. And you'll be able to hear every signing that happened today. We covered it. So that's going to be my last plug. It is time to hit the end stream button. I keep blabbering, but I love you guys. You're the best. Peace out. Also, I refuse to cover Luke Farrell.